Just gonna see if I have video and if I have audio. One person here. Hello, one person. It's good to see you, whoever you are. And do I have audio and video? Hang on. Whoever you are. Yes, I do. It's the Nazarite bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. It's Saturday night. What a lovely Shabbat it was. I'm so happy to be here. So one person here and one like already. Thank you. I appreciate the vote of confidence. Hey, James Bong is here. Presumably that's you. Nice to see you, man. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. So, it's a fireside chat. I'm chilling out. I have a cup of tea. Hello, second person who's here. Good to see you. And I'm going to dive right into questions from the last few days. Sebastian3217 asked, does the Torah teach skepticism and liberalism? I often have a view of Jews being enlightened and secular, allowing for plurality. It seems as other religions are more totalitarian. So I can't speak for the other religions because I don't know them. He's saying that they are more totalitarian in nature. Of course, there is the totalitarian element in the Torah in the sense that if you do certain things, then you would be put to death if you would do it in front of witnesses and you were warned and there was a proper Sanhedrin and you were found guilty, and all of that takes it's a very, very lengthy process. And as I like to say, right, a Sanhedrin that would execute a person once every 7 or some say 70 years would be considered lethal. And so even though the Torah says mot yumat, right, kill this person, kill that person, oh, they did this, kill them too, it barely ever actually happened, right? These killings based on the Torah were few and far between. So does the Torah teach skepticism and liberalism? So liberalism, I suppose maybe there's less room for that. I mean, unless you're talking about, let's say, the sovereignty of the individual, because that has its roots in the Torah. As for skepticism, it depends, right? Are you talking about the written Torah? Are you talking about the oral Torah? There's a difference there in the sense that the written Torah is said to be given by God, right, a divine revelation to Moses at Sinai, whereas the oral Torah was also given at Sinai, but it's supposed to be something which progresses and stays oral, meaning that it can continue to evolve, whereas the written Torah is more set in stone, so to speak. James Bong says, been researching my matrilineal heritage. So far, I got to the Revolutionary War. Finally broke out of 1854 Kentucky. Are you circumcised for 2026? Asks Mr. Palad. Well, my penis is circumcised, yes. My heart not yet circumcised all the way. My neck is still stiff. I am waiting for the divine revelation and for myself, right, to circumcise my heart so I will no longer be a sinner to the degree that I can be or not be, and to soften my neck so it won't be so stubborn and set in its ways. I want to do good. I want to be good. I want to be a blessing to those around me. You need a haircut, says Mr. Palad. No, I guess I don't. That's part of the Nazarite thing. Shabbat Shalom, says Connie. Hey, look at that. Nice to see you, Connie, again. Your comments are appreciated. James Bong retracted a message. What was going on there? Okay. Continuing with the questions from a couple of days ago. Oh, all right. We were talking about, does the Torah teach skepticism and liberalism, asked Sebastian. So liberalism, in the sense of the sovereign individual, yes, more or less. Also, it depends on if we're talking about the nations or if we're talking about the tribes of Israel, there are different rules. However, as for skepticism, it does leave room for skepticism and debate. It leaves room for questioning, because it's not exactly clear, and I mentioned that in the video on the 13 Principles of Faith by Maimonides, the Rambam. It's not a consensus 100% that having faith is a prerequisite to being a good Jew, as it were. Where some would say, no, you just need to follow the Torah and the commandments, and you can know certain things, but you don't have to believe them, in the sense that you know that you ought to perform the commandments as they are set out in the Torah. You know that if there's a temple, you're supposed to worship in this and this and this way. But you don't have to believe any of it. Or, on the other hand, there are those who say, no, without belief, it's like a body without a soul that just drops dead and that's it. It's like there's nothing there to really work with, and you need the belief, you need the faith, literally, in order to have that basis upon which the physical commandments and the carrying them out can rest. So it's still an ongoing debate, incidentally. So he says he has often a view of Jews as being enlightened and secular. Well, plenty of enlightened Jews, plenty of secular Jews. There is, look, most of the Jewish world is secular. I'm talking about like rough numbers, right? Statistically. Even in the land of Israel, most of the Jews in Israel are secular. But in traditionalism, let's say, and keeping tradition, be it the tradition from the Second Temple era, be it the tradition of your forefathers and mothers in the diaspora, there are varying degrees, right? Let's say Shabbos, right? Okay? Let's say Shabbos, the Sabbath, where you have the Orthodox tradition on how you ought to keep the Sabbath, the rabbinic tradition. And then you have those who maybe, go to synagogue, but then they come home and they watch TV, which is something an Orthodox Jew normally wouldn't do. Or they sanctify and may do the blessings on the wine or the bread, what's called kiddush, sanctification. But then let's say they go and do other things. Or, right, let's say they go to shul, they go to synagogue in the morning of the Sabbath and they worship and they pray, they do the thing with the congregation, but then they use their car to go to the beach. It's like there's varying degrees of adherence to halacha, rabbinic law. There's varying degrees of keeping the mitzvahs as they are set out in the written and oral Torah. So there is this room for being enlightened. There is this room for being secular, because we see de facto this is what's going on. But there is plurality in the Hebrew faith. We know that because there are 12 tribes, and as such, it means that each and every one of them has their own divine attribute, let's say, associated with them, their own path, their own way. Just like in the breastplate of the high priest were 12 precious stones, each one representing one of the tribes of Israel. And this is precisely how the word of God, let's say, would be conveyed to the high priest with the what's called Urim V'Tumim. And it means that it's 12 that become one, right? We are all children of Israel in the 12 tribes. So even though we each have our different attributes, even though we each have, they say, our sages, a different path in the heavens where the prayer goes to, let's say, we each got our blessing, there's still that idea of 12 that are part of one, right? With a singular origin, let's say. And even that is not a singular origin, right? We have Jacob and Esau. And then we have Isaac and Ishmael, and we have Abraham, who came from a pagan home. So there was like this refining process through the generations. And even within the 12 tribes themselves, there's a constant refinement, let's say, that's going on. And right now with the Jews, the kingdom of Judah, this is going on heavily. So I have a cup of tea with me here this evening. It's a cup of wild berry tea. It's one of those fancy schmancy teas, at least from the packaging. I haven't tasted it yet, but we will see. And I have a few people watching here. Hello, people. Tell me, where are you from? How is your weekend going? If you celebrate Christmas and the holidays that are ensuing now, that are ongoing, how are your holidays going? How is the holiday season treating you? Let's go for questions in the chat. Bro, take a shower. That's not a question, but I appreciate it. I do shower regularly, even though it may look like I don't. Allah bless you, brother of the book. Thank you, Muhammad Aslam. Appreciate it. 3555. James Bong says, LOL, I said I should get another circumcision so people won't be so jealous of me. Haha. You need YHWH through Jesus' name, says Joker. I'm a joker. I'm a toker. I'm a midnight smoker. Hey, man, James Bond, go get some tea. Do I need Yod Hey Vav Hey? Definitely. Through Jesus? No. That's where I draw the line. Ari Schaefer, once again. I keep getting that the last few days. Says Maximum Meridius. Thanks, man. It's hit and miss with his comedy for me. I said that last time. Dude, comb your hair, says C.W. Brent. That would be against the Nazarite vow. You're allowed to use your fingers, but no comb, no brush, and no tool to manipulate the hair. Free Palestine, baby, says Killa Soames. I agree, Killa Soames. Free Palestine from Hamas. Free Palestine from religious extremism. Free Palestine from all of those warmongering, genocidal freaks who are in control of it. Thank you, Kill Soma, for Psalms for supporting the IDF, supporting the state of Israel. This is important. We need to free those people. Amen. This Jew is a dirty Jew, says Kamkilo. Yes, I am dirty, but there's a time and place for being clean, and there's a time and place for getting down and dirty. You know what I'm saying? Free Quebec, says Alien Cowboy Farmer. Now wait. Alien cowboy, who do you farm? You farm aliens? Like you're an alien cowboy farm, or you're an alien who farms cowboys? I'm gonna need, elaborate, please. I'm not sure.
makes aliens fun.
Yes, that could be as well. Muhammad says, may Allah bless you with right religion. Yes, or no religion at all, really, and direct connection with the Most High God. That's what we're going for. 13 is oneness, says Larry Jackson. Now, Larry Jackson, good to see you here again, man. Very good to see you here again. Joker says the Mosaic law was changed by Jesus' resurrection. See, once again, I don't believe in that, man. I believe that even if he was resurrected after 3 days, that changes absolutely nothing about the Torah. So he's quoting Timothy and Corinthians and Mark and Matthew, and I believe in none of those books. I don't take them as gospel.
No.
Free Israel from Zionism, says Kilosomes. Okay, a fine rebuttal, to which I will say, well, if you're talking about modern-day Zionism, there can be some debate about that, but certainly not from biblical Zionism, which is the idea of the Jews, or the Hebrews, right? They weren't just Jews, they were 12 tribes, returning to their homeland, which is right here, once they repent, or they go back and then they repent. Okay. King of the Earth, nice to see you again, man. If you actually believed the Torah, says King of the Earth, then you would have believed that the Ashkenazi was islanders, not Europeans, but you are a European claiming to be what you never was. Okay, please tell me, what claim have I made that I never was? I was born a Jewish man here in Israel to Jewish parents. So even if you claim that my origins are Ashkenazi, European, Khazari, I don't know what, it still makes zero difference. Nothing. Nothing. Gar nicht. Goose egg. Because people who convert are Jews, people who are born Jews are Jews. So whether everyone would like to think it or not think it, believe it, not believe it, and this isn't really, truly, not a holier than thou thing, not in the least. Okay, I'm just a lowly Jew. However, if you're going to say, no, you come from, this and that, so yeah, okay, let's grant that proposition. Let's say that my parents, not even my grandparents or my my parents. Dude, can you not? I'm in the middle here. Thanks, man. Let's grant that proposition and say, there's a time and a place. This is not one of them. Okay? Thanks, man. If you grant that proposition and say, yes, I came from, somewhere far away from the land of Israel, even though I was born and raised here, let's say that I wasn't. The Hebrew people, the tribes of Israel, have one land. And you can even go into dispute on the borders of the land and what was the promised land versus what the land actually is now. That's all open for debate. Truly it is. You can even debate the origins of the Hebrew people. What is not debated is history. And in history, we had time here. We were here, and there was always a Jewish presence here from the time that from the time that we crossed the Jordan, or from the time that we came together here as different tribes who were in Canaan already. This guy has no respect, says Kilosomes. Khazar lies. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Even if I have my origins in the kingdom of Khazaria or Kuzal, it makes zero difference right in the here and now. People love, even though the Khazari theory has been debunked time and again, people love to cast these accusations at modern-day Jews. But most of the Jews are not Ashkenazi. I don't know if you people know this. Most of the Jews are not from Europe. Most of the Jews who came back to Israel were from Arab countries, right? African countries. They were kicked out of there, see? Because as much as people would love to virtue signal, it's not what actually happened. So read some history. And I'm not being arrogant right now. I'm literally saying read history. Now, whether or not you choose to believe it is another thing. Okay. Do you believe the Old Testament? Asks Wendy Kirkland. Yes, I do. I am a believer in the Old Testament. To me, it's not an Old Testament. It's just a testament. God can't give anyone land, brother. What do you mean can't give? The land belongs, but the land is part of creation. Creation belongs to the Creator. But there is a time and a place where a certain people could inhabit it. Let's say the children of Israel. Let's say the 7 nations that were here before the children of Israel were here. And let's say the people who conquered it time and time again. It was given and it was bought and sold, conquered and reconquered. But the land doesn't belong to any specific nation or individual. On that we're in agreement. But the land as a creation does belong to the Creator. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Judah was never promised the entire inheritance of Jacob anyway. No, Judah, as the kingdom or the tribe, was promised a specific land. You can read about it in the book of Joshua, and then that became Judah, Benjamin, and when the kingdom split, right, with Chavaam and Yerovam, Judah, Benjamin, and parts of Levi, traditionally where I come from, and so it's like yes, and there has been a war and a conquering and a reconquering. This land was again fought over. Rivers of blood are flowing through it all the time, constantly. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. The royal line of David goes through the house of Joseph, not Judah. Joseph is not a Jew. Well, first of all, do you have anything to back that up with? Because as far as I know, David, son of Yishai, was of the kingdom of Judah, of the tribe of Judah. But even again, if we grant that and we say, okay, it's through the line of Joseph. Joseph was one of the tribes of Israel, right? Menashe and Ephraim, the house of Joseph. I am of the tribes of Israel. So even if it was 12 that became 2, 12 that became 3, 12 and 10 are lost, we don't need to be separated into tribes. There are different tribes, there are different families. Each tribe and each family has their mission, their purpose, their path, their way. And through all of the trials and tribulations and wars and exiles and destruction, things have gotten mixed up. No argument there. However, there is still the remnants of the kingdom of Judah, right? Who came back here to their ancestral land where Jews always were. They were not a majority, I'll grant that, but it was always part of this reality in this place, a Jewish settlement, if you will, a Jewish population, however minute and small and near insignificant. We always kept some sort of number of people here, or I should say some amount of people was always here. Judah was the worst brother and not a prophet. Well, are you answering me? Because I didn't say he was a prophet. He was the brother that tried to kill Joseph. Yes, again, in this week's Torah portion, Vayigash, we see that Judah repents and he comes near Joseph and he says, take me. Let Benjamin go back to his father. Take me instead. Yehudah repents. This is part of the greatness of Judah as a member of the brothers, right? He was able to understand what he did wrong and he made a different choice. And when Benjamin's life was on the line, and Joseph said, he stays, the rest of you go back to Canaan, Judah approached him and he said, no, I made a promise to my father that dude is going home. Take me instead. He sacrificed himself. And when Joseph saw that, and he saw that Judah sort of learned his lesson, so to speak, and the rest of the brothers did too, presumably, then he was able to reveal himself to them and they all showed up and so on and so forth. Pretending to be from Judah is embarrassing, even if that were true, says Michael 2514. I'm not sure if you're talking to me or not. I'm not pretending to be anything. This is literally my heritage. This is literally my tradition. Also, I'm not of Judah the tribe. I'm of the tribe of Levi. I am a Levite, again, according to tradition. But even if all that is wrong, and I'm not from Judah or from Levi, I am de facto a Jew, whether biologically or through conversion, however you want to say it. Some people have a big, big problem. They like to go back to the origins and say that there are real Jews and there are fake Jews, and there's no such thing. No such thing. If you take on the covenant of Torah, if you perform the commandments, right? Or if you're born biologically to a Jew, now it would be a mother, before it would be a father, then you are a Jew. It's simply a fact of life, in the same way that you can't be half pregnant. You can't be half a Jew. You could argue over the fact that biblically it's through the father, and then later from the time of Ezra the scribe it's through the mother. You can argue over that. And then you could say, okay, I'm a half a Jew because my father's a Jew, my mother's not a Jew, so biblically I might be a Jew, but only in the first half of the... You could start that entire argument. Halachically, as far as rabbinic, orthodox law is concerned, it goes through the mother. I do understand people who wanted to go through the father, and I'm not going to tell people, you're this, you're that. I'm not into putting those labels, if you want to say you're a Jew, by all means do. If you follow the Torah, you take on the covenant, perform the commandments, try to be a good person, then you're a Jew if you take on that load, if you take on that yoke. But I'm not pretending to be anything. This is far from what I'm doing. Also, that's why I don't call myself a Jew, right? I call myself a Hebrew man. The fact that I'm from the remnants of the kingdom of Judah is significant to some and less significant to others. I don't pay mind to that. I really, really don't. because eventually it's just a label, but it's what it means actually in life that matters to me. Okay. Hello, brother. Blessings to your love. Hope you are well, says Malachi. And thank you. Hey, Robert Harrison is here. That's nice. Nice to see you, Robert. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. Kilosomes, you should call yourself a doctor. Well, I'm not a doctor of anything, so no. Michael says, earliest source of the Torah is from 1000 AD and not in Hebrew. It's in Greek, the Septuagint. Yes, Targum HaShiv'im, as it's known. And that's the earliest source, and where do you think the Greeks got it from? According to our tradition, it was written by 70 people, right, in exile. So again, you can say that's all bullshit. Fair enough. I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm not here to say that I hold some great truth. I don't have some eternal wisdom. I'm here, right? We're talking. It's a dialogue. It's a discourse, right? We're talking faith, spirituality, religion, self-development, and everything surrounding that, which means that it's not about being right or wrong. It's about having an interesting discourse, right? And sharing ideas, building bridges, having some common ground so we can have a valid discussion instead of just accusations and aspersions and hatred and spewing, it's just, there's enough of that all over the internet. King David was Jewish, so Joker, you disagree with Michael, right? A doctor to get you a therapist, LOL. I'm back in therapy after a decade of not going. I went back less than a month ago. I've had 3 sessions so far. I really enjoy the therapy. This time I'm doing it digitally, right, on the screen, whereas before it was face to face. But I'm here to work. When I go to therapy, I'm there to work. I don't BS. I don't beat around the bush. I want to get to things as quickly as I can without taking any shortcuts or I don't know what. So I already have a therapist. I deeply appreciate your sentiment. Ariel Marshall, when did it start? I've been live for 22 minutes, Ariel. Anyone surprised he's on therapy? Well, Kilasams, you can laugh all you want. Therapy was of great benefit for me a decade ago. It was of great benefit for me 13 years. I went for like 3 years when I was 28 or so, 28, 29. It was highly beneficial. I'll be the first to admit it. I have no problem with going to therapy. I think it's a great thing to talk to a professional. Now, for many years, I said, no, I don't need a therapist because I talk to God every single day. Right? And I talk to God the way I'm talking to you right now. Just spontaneous dialogue or monologue, right? Because it's me talking to myself. And eventually, right, when the kids started to be born and certain things were bubbling to the surface in my personal life and in the relationship, and I was like, you know what? I think I need to see somebody. And at the time, I was going to film school, and film school, right, the school I went to had very, very cheap subsidized therapy sessions. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm taking advantage of that because the relationship was suffering and I was suffering and I couldn't continue that way. And I wanted to maintain, right? I wanted to be a good husband. I wanted to be a good father. And going to therapy is one of the best decisions I ever made. It helped me out a lot. And going to therapy now again, just under a month ago, is once again, I'm still maintain, right? It's the same thing. One of the best decisions I ever made. I probably should have done it sooner, but I'm definitely enjoying it now. It's nice to have a session where I can just talk, right? I don't need to go anywhere or drive anywhere so it's nice. And, and you have the option of journaling and you have the option of texting back and forth, which is something I didn't have back with my old therapist. So I'm very happy about that, truly. Ryan says, stop lying. You talk to God only to try to trick him. Well, if I was trying to trick God, I would be not doing a good job. Michael says, exactly. Trying to trick God by not pressing the elevator button on Sabbath. So they rig the electrical system, such morons. Okay. The Sabbath elevator. So here's the thing. The idea of going and finding loopholes in halacha is a debatable thing. On the other hand, right? So yes, it's an ongoing debate, right? If you're not allowed to press the button on the elevator because that would be making a fire, right? When electricity was first introduced to the masses, there was the debate in halacha. Do we count electricity as fire or not? In other words, not even fire. Is it a labor that is allowed on the Sabbath, or is it a labor that is not? There are 39 labors, that are not allowed. 39 of them. And there was a great debate. There are some of the rabbis at the time, some of the halachic rulers said, no, electricity is fine. Others said, no, no, it's not fine, and we should go with the more strict opinion because it's Shabbos, and Shabbos is a very important covenant, and so you'd rather be strict and safe, right? Better safe than sorry. And what was decided according to Orthodox rabbinic halacha is that using electricity, right, and putting your own using electricity in the sense of that I am now causing an electrical current to run through the system, something along those lines, right? That is not permissible. If it's something that happens of its own accord, that I set in advance, but I simply make use of the apparatus, the machine, whatever it is, but I'm not the one who is actually operating it, I set it in advance in the 6 days of labor, and then I rest on the seventh day, right? And I still make use of it, but I'm not the one who's physically now causing the circuit to close, then it would be permissible, which is why it's not tricking God, though I do understand people who think it's tricking God. But you got to understand something. The idea of the oral law, let's take electricity, a classic example, right? Oral law is something that should not have been written down to begin with. The fact that it was written down caused it to be stuck in the past. And nowadays, and for the past 2,000 years, give or take, halachic rulers, right, rulers who want to make a halachic ruling or law, they have to anchor it in the previously written halachas. They have to anchor it in the previously decided rulings of the high court. And now we don't have a high court in order to make those, right, to nullify them and to make new ones. And so there were different things that our sages at the time of the first and second temple, for that matter, put into practice. Certain things were taken away, certain things were added to in the oral law. I'm saying not the written Torah, but the oral law. But then, when the high court was dispersed and the smicha, the laying of the hands, was terminated, and there's no high court now, people who are called rabbis now are not the same rabbis of back then who had that laying of the hands. Now rabbis simply means somebody who can instruct you, but they cannot break the old laws, and they cannot make new laws. So we are kind of waiting in between. Okay, so taking that into account, when electricity came onto the scene, it was a great debate. And since they opted to be more strict in order to not accidentally desecrate the Sabbath, this is the reason why electricity is prohibited. However, the Sabbath does allow you to make the 6 days of creation, right, the 6 days of labor. You're allowed to set everything up in advance. You're allowed to set timers. You're allowed to set different clocks, like different alarms that you set in advance that go off on the Sabbath, let's say. I'm using that as an example. In the very same way, you can set the elevator, right, the Sabbath elevator. You can rig the electricity, just like he said. You can rig it right before the Sabbath to stop on each floor. You can walk in, don't touch any buttons. You can walk in, it gets to your floor, you walk out. You didn't touch the electricity. You didn't cause the current to go in. It was all prearranged. And so you're not breaking the Sabbath, even though you are physically in an elevator, right, in a moving box. You are not the one controlling the electricity. So like I said, I definitely understand the people who call it a loophole. And I also do understand the ones who say, no, no, we are simply playing this game of halacha with the cards that we were dealt, because we don't really have the means to change things, not properly. And so we do what we can with what we are given. And I understand both opinions, right? I understand those who say that it's a bunch of crap and it's loopholes and you're tricking God. And I understand those who say, no, no, it's not trickery. It's simply dealing with what we have in the way that we can, because we have no high court, we have no smicha, we don't have the authority and the rabbinic power to make what they said, right, and to change what they said like 2,000 years ago. Hopefully that will change, but right now that's the case. Orthodox, right, halacha, in Orthodox halacha, that's the case. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Let's continue. King of the Earth says, if you're not literally of the Lion of Judah, then you're not actually a Jew. No, I'm a Hebrew. That's why I call myself a Hebrew man, because I'm not, right, look, I'm a Jew in the sense that my family came traditionally from the kingdom of Judah, from Judea. That's where I am right now. And so you can say what you want, right? It doesn't matter how much you want the inheritance for yourself. It's not yours. You can't have if you don't get the blessing. No, I'm sorry, that's just not correct. You have converts to the Hebrew faith. So even if my original parents, let's say, my biological parents, let's say, were converts, I am 100% a Jew, just like them. What is it that you're trying to get to, King of the Earth? Really, I'm agreeing with you. Let's say that I'm a Polish, European, white, Khazar, all of the different locations that have zero to do with the Levant, zero to do with Israel, zero to do with Canaan, zero to do with the Holy Land, zero to do with God. Let's say I was a complete, I mean, the complete opposite of everything that has to do with the tribes of Israel. Let's say that. And now what? Now what? I took on the covenant, I'm circumcised, I try to keep Torah. That makes me a Jew, whether you think it or not, whether you like it or not. So I don't understand your insistence, right, on saying, oh, you're fake. All of the evidence is pointing against you. All of the evidence. I'm agreeing with you. Let's say that all of what you said is true. I'm still, after all of that, 100% a Hebrew man of the tribes of Israel, a simple dumbass in the Middle East, just trying to do my thing. For some reason, you take great offense at this. For some reason, you have this need to prove me wrong and expose me as a fraud. But I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. So where is the fraudulence here? I'm honestly asking, where? Okay. You are genociders now, says Minduck. Well, again, if we are genociders, we are the worst genociders ever because the Palestinian population keeps on growing. So I guess not. The genociders, right, are Hamas, Jihad, the Al-Aqsa Brigade, the other, the terrorists, the actual terrorists who are fighting civilian population, hiding behind their civilian population, using mosques and schools and hospitals, and not building their population any kind of shelter, not providing them with any defense, leaving them defenseless, and then crying victim. That's your path then? That's your argument? That's the way to go? James Bong says, I just heard an interesting theory concerning Abraham. Do share. King of the Earth says, absolutely, Moses is not Jewish. No, he's a Levite. He's not a Jew. Moses is not in the line of Judah. That's correct. Moses is in the line of Levi. Moses is a Levite, not a Jew. I'm agreeing with all of this. I don't call myself a Jew in the sense that I'm from Judah. I call myself a Jew, if I do ever, which I don't, because I'm part of the remnants of the kingdom of Judah living in Judea. Once again, I'm agreeing with you. You're slinging things at me as if I don't know what you think you're doing, but okay. King of the Earth says, it's called, if you actually want to follow the religion and claim the religion that you actually have, to deal with the fact that you're going to be punished by that religion for your fraudulent claims. What fraudulent claims? So you're saying that I'm a fake, and yet you're not saying how I'm faking. What is it that I'm faking? Please, by all means, tell me. Because so far I've agreed with everything you said in the sense of that I'm this and I'm that and I'm that. And I said, okay, let's say that you're right. You still have nothing. You have literally nothing. Nothing to go on. And yet you keep repeating that I'm fake, I'm fake, I'm fake. I'm like, okay, how am I fake? Tell me, actually, how am I fake? Ariel says, if you want to try to convince people any of us are not Jews, go ahead. It's really not going to help anyone. Yes, that's true. You got fleas in your hair, says nothing to do. No, I don't. There was one time, because I've got little kids. If you've got little kids, you're going to get lice. I had lice in my hair once or twice over the years. Since the kids were born, I think maybe once, but I used rubbing alcohol. I just doused my head in alcohol, tied a bag around my hair, right? Got all the hair in a bunch, doused alcohol, I poured alcohol all over, medical alcohol all over it, put my hair in a bag for like 20, 30 minutes. The fumes suffocate the lice, because lice still need to breathe, and then they die. And then I shower and they all fall out. So that's how I take care of that. Samuel Morton says, bless you, obedience increases alignment, good job. Well, I don't know if you're talking to me or not, but I appreciate the sentiment nonetheless. King of the Earth says, James, that doesn't make sense. Oh, I'm sorry, he's talking to someone else. Okay. Firas says, what are your overall thoughts on Islam? Well, look, Islam, it's a problem for me to talk about Islam, even though I live close to Surbaher and Jabal Mukbar, right? Muslim Arab villages. My problem is that I was born in Israel, a country that's always at war, always in a state of emergency, always living under the threat of terrorism. Hopefully that will be lifted out, but for now, still living during a war, right, at war, in a state of emergency, under the constant threat of annihilation and terrorism. And that means that I never got to see the beautiful and righteous side of Islam. I never got to see the good side of Islam, the peace-loving side of Islam. And I'm presuming that there is because I know that there are many Muslims who wouldn't behave this way. And so I'm inclined to think that it does exist, but I have not been privy to it. All I have been privy to is the murderous, warmongering, genocidal, extremist, radical Islam, which is what inhabits this area by and large, right? The brainwashing, the indoctrination, Jews are apes, Jews are pigs, Jews are dogs, kill them and you'll get 70 virgins in Jannah. It's like, no, I'm not going to go with that, which is why Islam is something I take issue with, only because my mind has been warped by war and terrorism and bloodshed and murder. So I can't speak of Islam. I can't give you my overall thoughts on Islam because they would be those warped views. So I'd rather not utter them because I know that there's a very good chance that it's not the absolute truth. I know that it's just my experience here talking, and I don't think that my experience alone should count for how I view the entire faith. So he continues and says, some say it's a source of truth, others say Muhammad was a false prophet, some just claim Islam is a copy-paste of the Bible, Torah with small changes. So again, I would love to know, and maybe at some point I will get into the Quran, the Holy Quran, maybe at some point I will get to the Hadiths and the teaching of the Prophet, maybe, but right now I'm in no position to do that, because of the history of this place, because of my personal history with Islam and with terrorism. You know? Jews and Arabs are cousins, correct? Ishmael and Jacob, Israel, are cousins. That's correct, and we should be cousins. King of the Earth says, your child is growing up to be a murderer and a rapist, and you are so happy for this. Well, I'm not teaching my kids to murder. I'm not teaching my kids to rape. I'm teaching my kids that they should know to defend themselves and that they should treat women and men with respect. So if you consider that murder and rape, by all means do, King of the Earth. You know, for a King of the Earth, you're kind of biased, I gotta say. A king should be a lot more balanced. You know, you should have some reserve, some judgment. Michael says, Moses was not Jewish. Yes, I know. Again, we agree here. Moses was not a Jew. Moses was a Levite. It says it right there. Didn't even speak Hebrew. You know, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe it was just the Paleo Hebrew. Wow, says Jason Jones, 4891. What wow? What's up, man? Why do so many Israeli children spit on Christians, asks Stinky Paradox. Well, so many? I wouldn't go so far as to say that so many do it. I know that some highly misguided and completely disrespectful children spit on Christians and people who are not Jews. That is a horrible thing for Jews to do, whether they are adults or children. I think it's a great desecration of the path and the way. In no way does it make anybody feel comfortable in the Holy Land. So it's not that so many Israeli children do that. The bulk of Israeli kids do not do that. Some really, really, really extremist, misguided people spit. Unfortunately, it's a horrible thing to do, and I wish they wouldn't do that. And I do not endorse it, and I do not advocate for it, and I think that it should be abolished. I think those people should be arrested for assault, you know, or the children at least should be admonished, or the parents should receive a fine, or I don't know what. You're not allowed to spit on someone else. That's just common sense. I'd love to get you a retie for them locks. Well, I haven't tied anything ever. Steph B. I've never, you know, it's just natural hair. It just grows like that. I haven't made any twists. I haven't made any ties. I haven't used any tools. I didn't crochet anything. It's just natural, organic, you know, Nazarite dreads. That's all it is. Just tell us your Polish last name. I don't want to dox myself too much. But yes, I do have a last name, but I'll have you know this. Last names, right? I agreed with you. My ancestors, after they were kicked out of the land of Judah, right? After the after Rome and all that, they did get eventually to Eastern Europe. I agreed with you on that. And as a result, I do have a very Ashkenazi last name. Last names are not a Hebrew thing. Last names are only a few hundred years old. My Hebrew name has no family name. It has a tribal name of Levi, because I'm a Levite according to our family's tradition. And so, right, actually from the same house and family as Moses, incidentally. So a last name means absolutely nothing, right? It means that I had ancestry after we were kicked out of Judah. I had ancestry in Eastern Europe. Yes, I agree. I had ancestry in Europe. My grandparents were Europeans. That means absolutely nothing. Really, truly, I honestly, and I make an effort to try and understand these people who hold on to this for whatever reason, but I'm not able to make head or tail of their argument. Because if you're going to claim that our ancestors were European, why is it that we were told in Europe, go back to your land? That makes no sense. You understand? Also, many of those who tell me this are Christians. Christians believe in Jesus. Jesus was a Jew from Judea, a Jew from the kingdom of Judah, born in Bethlehem, that's 20 minutes away from here. And I'm thinking, if you're going to contradict yourself so much, explain to me how. I mean, it's not that there's no room for contradiction. We are humans, we are evolved to hold so many ideas, and some of them are in contradiction. But reconcile it for me if you can, because I honestly don't understand, and I'm trying to understand. I'm trying. What does it have to do with anything? It has nothing to do with any of the things that I'm talking about now. And yet people hold on to this idea of, oh, at some point you had family in Europe. Okay, people move around all the time. It has nothing to do with anything. And I fail to see how that's an argument. I fail to see how that's any kind of a thesis. All I see there is hatred and bigotry and an insistence on, what would it be? An insistence, right, on holding on to this useless information that has no actual benefit in the here and now. And so, by all means, keep on blah, blah, blahing about Europe. Keep blah, blah, blahing about last names. You're not a real Jew. You're a fake Jew. It's like, I make a very simple claim, a very simple case, right? You take on the one Hebrew God, you keep Torah, you keep the commandments, you're a Jew. That's it. That's how it goes. Can you read and understand our Torah? Well, what's our? Do you mean Torah shebichtav? Do you mean Torah shebe'al peh? Right, the written, the oral. Freedom forever, 10,000. Can you read and understand our Torah? What does that mean, our Torah? If you mean Hebrew, I speak Hebrew. If you mean Israeli Aramaic, Eretz Yisrael Aramit, yes, I speak Aramit, Eretz Yisraelit, or I can understand it, rather. I don't speak it fluently. I can understand it. So, what do you mean? Hope you had a blessed Hanukkah. Thank you, 69. I did have a blessed Hanukkah, and I truly, truly hope that everyone else did too. It was a wonderful festival of lights. Says Ariel, Jonathan has been kind enough to speak openly with us and offer us his time and energy. Would be nice if people showed him more appreciation for this. I mean, they don't have to. It's nice, but they don't have to. Definitely don't have to. It's the internet. People can do what they want. Can you read and understand the Talmud? Yes, I can. The Babylonian Aramaic is different than the Eretz Yisrael Aramaic, but yes, I can. With some words, I would need probably a translation, because my Babylonian Aramaic is not as good as it could be. But yes, I can read and understand the Talmud. As for reading the debates properly, that would take look, it's been a long time since I studied Talmud regularly, 20 years or so, right, since I was in yeshiva. When I was in yeshiva, I studied Talmud every day, among other things, so I do have a rudimentary understanding of the Talmud, and I would know how to read it, and I would know how to approach it. I couldn't teach a class, let's say, probably, on Talmud. I couldn't teach a class on it, but I can understand it and roll with it and understand what is being said and understand more or less how to navigate the debate, right, the ongoing sugya. Michael says, I'd kill myself if I was this dude. Entire life is a lie. Okay, let's grant that again. Let's say my entire life is a lie. Then it's a life that it's a lie, right? But I'm trying to seek truth. So are you not going to give me that grace, Mr. Michael, of trying to seek truth? This is why we're here, right? We are here I mean, we're born into whatever we're born to. We have a certain genetic composition. We are born to a certain family in a certain geographical location with certain attributes, and then it's on us to do what we can with the hand that we're dealt. So you're going to come at me for my entire life as a lie? Okay, but at the very least, it's a lie that is seeking to gain some truth. And I'm not claiming to have any truth. I'm not claiming to know more than anybody or see more than anybody or understand more than anybody. I'm just here trying to talk to you people. A lot of you guys in the chat seem to have a problem with my mere existence. And that says volumes, right? That speaks a lot. That says a lot. IDF kicks ass, says Handy Andy. Nice to see you again, Handy Andy. Orange Sunrise says, LMAO, kike, kike, kike? Yes, I am a kike. I am a Shylock. I'm a Yid. The CW says, what's the Talmud say about Jesus? So there are a few things that it says in the Talmud about Jesus, and it's not clear, it's not 100% clear which Jesus they are talking about. However, if you're talking about the fact that the Talmud says that Yeshu HaNotzri, Jesus of Nazareth, or Jesus that is in a pit of boiling excrement, I'm going to say yes, it says that. And I mentioned this before when this was brought up before, just a couple of days ago, that I have a feeling that the part of why that was written is because it's also written that he was a great sage and the student of a Second Temple era sage called Rabbi Yehoshua ben Pachia, and that there was a fallout between him and his master, and because of that, Jesus went astray, and he put up a sigil of the moon and bowed down to it. Now, I don't believe either of those things. I don't believe that Jesus put up a sigil of the moon and bowed down to it, nor do I believe that Jesus is suffering in a pit of boiling excrement. I believe neither of those things. I think that those things were written in there, first of all, as a means of keeping people away from Christianity, which was gaining a lot of traction then. Second of all, as a way to show that you shouldn't ever consider a human being to be a God incarnate. It is not the way of the Torah. And so they gave him this punishment, let's say. Look, I'll be the first to admit the Talmud is full of weird-ass things. Yes, full of weird-ass things. It's not always supposed to be taken literally. These are debates that were ongoing on issues of halacha, rabbinic law, on issues of myth, on issues of the different tales that we're told that have a kind of element to them, right? And to have something, a kind of morality that you could follow. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it was literally the case that Jesus, as you Christians or followers of Jesus understand him, is in hell. Jews have no hell. Is in a pit of boiling excrement forever. They were trying to make a point, and they used an extreme case. This happens in tons of debates in the Talmud. And I mentioned this also a couple of days ago when this debate was raging on in the chat yet again. Jordan Cogburn says, looking from an anti-contract Christian, self-contract agnostic, all your arguments fall apart. I'm sorry, you'll have to enlighten me. I'm ignorant. What does an anti-contract Christian, self-contract agnostic mean? I have no idea what that means. I'm sorry, you'll have to forgive me. Jesus didn't follow Talmud. No, the Talmud wasn't written at the time of Jesus. The Mishnah wasn't written at the time of Jesus. The Mishnah and the Talmud were the oral traditions that were written down hundreds of years later. So, yes, you're absolutely right. Jesus did not follow Talmud. Jesus was following the oral law that was around at his time. That's a given. I don't understand why people are saying this as if it's, I gotcha! What? What? You are not an Orthodox Jewish? Yes, I grew up modern Orthodox here in Jerusalem. I still consider myself Orthodox in the sense that that is my home and that is my root here locally, but I don't follow strict halacha anymore. I took a small step away from strict halacha. I had my reasons. So yes, I am an Orthodox Jew, and I simply am not, I'm not your typical Orthodox Jew. I don't like the label Orthodox. I don't like the label Jew, and that already differentiates me. Can we make it 110? What are you talking about now? Ooh, pardon me. I'm sorry, who said that? Can we make it? Oh, Jacob Sims, X6J, can we make it 110? I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean, man. You'll have to enlighten me. The chat is going by really quick, and I'm trying to hit this and that. This is always funny, says Doorway256. Thanks, I appreciate that, if you're talking about me. Because, hey, if you don't have humor, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh. That's it. You gotta laugh. Orange Sunrise says the foreskin of the heart is the prideful mind. I agree. Only by denying the mind can the heart be examined. Whatever the heart seeks, the mind follows. Pride is the great deceiver. Don't fall for it. I agree. And, King Solomon says in Proverbs, pride goes before a fall, and a high spirit, well, לפני שפל גאון, ולפני, what is it? לפני שפל גאון, ולפני פני גאון. Yeah, right. Before you fall, you have a high spirit and you have pride. Yeah, I'm not a fan of pride. I think that you should have a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of pride and to know when to deploy it and otherwise be humble. Sit down, right? Humility is the key to all good virtues and all personality traits that are virtuous. It's the highest virtue, humility. So I agree with you, Orange Sunrise. Ariel says, no, he is not, but Orthodox Jewish is just a label. Anyway, nobody agrees about everything anyway. Yeah, that's probably correct. That's not your own advice, says All Funny Vids. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Are you talking about me or not me? All right. Could you explain the Goyim thing? Asks Tyler Morgan. Goyim means nations. That's all it means. Israel is also a Goy. It's written in the Torah, right? It's, it's not in the Torah. I mean, it is in the Torah, but it's, you know what I'm saying? It's just nations. Now, people take that to mean non-Jews. And some people have an inflection where they use it as a negative thing. You'll always find people who are ignorant and xenophobic. You'll always find people who are bigoted, haters. Some of them are Jewish. Obviously, they are people. And as such, some of them are going to hate. Haters going to hate. It doesn't matter if they're Jews, Christians, Muslim, Baha'i, Rastafari. It doesn't matter. Haters going to hate. Sometimes militantly so. But the Goyim thing, there's no Goyim thing. It's just the nations. That's it. And the people of Israel segregate themselves in, let's say, how they dress, in how they speak, in what they eat. And there is a kind of separation or segregation that is encouraged, at least according to halacha and somewhat according to Torah. However, if you're in the diaspora, in exile, you still need to integrate to some degree. You still need to... You can separate yourself only for a time, let's say, but you need to actually be part of the society that you are in. That is encouraged, more or less. It just means keep your Hebrew traditions, keep your Hebrew faith, keep the Hebrew tongue, but definitely be here now with the people that you're with. You can engage with them in philosophy and in, ideas of wisdom and psychology or whatnot. Just don't go according to their faith. You have your faith, you have your way, you have the Hebrew God and the ways of worship in which you've been instructed by your mother and your father. Go with that. That is your heritage, that is your lot in life. But definitely you can integrate to some degree into the society around you. So that's the Goyim thing, more or less. Israel makes me feel quite safe in the West, says Noda75. Can you break it down for me? What do you mean? Dumb it down for me a little bit. Just commit Roni McNutlowski, says shoe machine. What is a shoe machine? Please tell me. Genetic Memory Farm says the Middle East needs to have the world's biggest hash session. Oh, I agree on that. And squash these inter-Abrahamic beefs. No need for oppression or struggle or suffering. I agree. I mean, I don't smoke anymore, but I definitely agree with that. Be all end all I3E says if Hashem means the name, right, God. If Hashem is all powerful, why was he defeated by the Moabite god Chemosh in 2 Kings? The Moabite king sacrifices his son to Chemosh and Yahweh retreated. Right. So Yod He Vav He, right? You said Hashem. Hashem means the name. And yes, a certain name is associated with a certain divine attribute. When Israel does not do their job, when they forsake or break their covenant, it means that they are giving power or influence or divine revelation and emanation, if you will, to the outside forces. And that means that if at the right time and the right place, the dark side of the force could have dominion for a time, only for a time. And so that's why Hashem is all powerful. That's not God. That's just a revelation of God. And certain revelations are called powerful. Certain revelations are called all-powerful. Right? These names, Adonai, Elohim, for instance, El, Elyon. God has many names, and each one is attributed to a certain sphira or emanation or revelation in the world. And from the different relationships between them that are facilitated by Israel and the people, right? Then we know that there is a time, let's say, where God becomes hidden. It says it in the Torah, right? It says that God will hide his face from the people of Israel if they go wrong. It's like, what do you mean? God has no face. B, God is everywhere. How can he hide? This has nothing to do with God. It has to do with revelations of God, certain names of God, where they were treated, as it were, and there was divine emanation and influence that was not reaching this name, not bringing it in force into creation because of what Israel has done. And so, when you say Hashem is all powerful, that's only an attribute called all powerful, right? Or Elohim. That's why it's plural, by the way, not Eloha, the singular, Elohim, plural. That already means a duality at the very least. And if there's one God, how can he be two? How can it be plural? Because it's a name. It's a name that we associate with a certain divine attribute, but not with the divine, the creator himself, herself, itself. So yes, Kmosh defeated, right? Kmosh defeated Yod-Heh Vav-Heh in that sense, right? Because Israel were not doing their job, and there was defeat. So yes, of course that happens. That happens through the entirety of judges and kings. Always. That's how it goes. Razid Ogu says, I need your mother's number in my life. She's been married to my pa for decades and decades. I don't think that she would leave him for a YouTube rando, but I don't know everything. It could be the case that if she saw you, Razid Ogu, she would go, oh my God, who is that? I'm leaving you. I'm gonna go with Razid Ogu here. Dude, you've got it going on. My mother, I don't think that she will. I don't think that she will go with you, but I don't know that for sure. So give it a shot. Shoot your shot. You people out there, you're looking for a woman, even if she is in her 60s or 70s, shoot your shot. Zohara of Eden is laughing, and that's nice. It's good to laugh. Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Definitely make 'em laugh. Unknown Soul says, I wanted to ask, is the creator of South Park racist to Jews? Isn't it Matt and Trey, right? Matt Stone, Trey Parker, isn't it two creators? Racist to Jews, what's your opinion? Oh, great one. Oh, sure. My opinion is, yeah, you want to laugh at Jews? By all means, laugh at the Jews. Laugh at everything. Look, you either can laugh at everything, or you can laugh at nothing. It's one or the other. Now, there are degrees. You need to choose your moment. You need to have discernment, right? You need to have discernment. But I'm of the opinion that you can make fun of everything. Everything. It's just a question of A, knowing your audience, and B, the right time, C, the right place. If you have those things in alignment, you can laugh about everything. Everything. Nothing is off limits. Otherwise, you can laugh at nothing, because there will always be some hard ass who says, man, that offends me. So be offended. Be offended. Okay, let's see. Yeah, or get mad about everything, Ricochet. Exactly. You either need to laugh or you need to... Exactly. Just laugh. Laugh or cry. Southern by the grace of God. I mean, yeah, I suppose we are all, whatever we are, Southern or Northern by the grace of God. Check its hard drive for CP. Are you talking about me or someone else? I have none of that on my hard drive. Thank God for that. What? Talking about the Jews is anti-Semitic, says CW. Talking about the Jews. Everybody talks about the Jews. They don't all hate the Jews. Just because you make fun of them doesn't mean you hate them. Need a pair of scissors, says McDobb69. No, I don't. I really, really don't. I don't think so, man. Okay, do Groucho Marx. I did that the other day, Larry Jackson. I think you were here as well. Be All End All says, I appreciate your honesty, man. Thank you for giving a fair interpretation. Nobody will ever admit Yod-Heh Vav-Heh was defeated by Chemosh. Yes, obviously, it's just a revelation. It's not God. It's a certain revelation of God that could have been defeated by a different revelation, and it all comes from the people of Israel and how they were behaving. It's the people of Israel, right, who give this name of Yod He Vav He its significance in battle, if you will. And just because nobody will admit it, I'm assuming, nobody will ever admit that because they equate Yod He Vav He with the Creator and not with a revelation of the Creator. But I don't know God. I don't know anything about God. I've never met God. I'll never know God ever. All I know is how God reveals himself to me. All I have is revelation. Revelation is not the Creator. The Creator is untouchable, unknowable, unfathomable, unthinkable. Can't do it. Can't do it by definition of being a creation. I cannot truly ever know the Creator. I can know his works. I can know his dealings and his doings, his revelations and emanations, and this is what the Torah is all about. But the people there who say that they will never admit that he was defeated by Kmosh, I think, not that I know better than them. Hell no. I'm ignorant. I'm not an educated man. I don't know much. I do know that if I can perceive it, if I can conceptualize it, if I can think about it and ponder it and contemplate it, if I can get it with one of my senses, it's already immediately not God. That's it. It's not God. It's just a revelation of God coming through me, through the spiritual channels into this physical form, inhabiting my mind, right? And my organs and whatnot. But to say that that's God, that would be very, very wrong. That's how I see it. Why do the righteous suffer? Why do the wicked prosper? Says AGV77. So this is an ongoing debate. I'll give you the bottom line here is for choice, for freedom of choice. That's why. Right? First of all, you could say it's reincarnation. That these people did certain things here in this world, these wicked people did certain things in this world in previous lives, and the righteous did in previous lives, and that's one thing. The other thing is, the righteous suffer to get their reward in the future, and the wicked prosper because they get their reward in the physical world, but nothing in the world to come or the coming world. So there's that. The third thing is for choice. For you to look at the world and say, like Ecclesiastes, King Solomon did, right? The righteous man and the wicked man are both going to die and become worm food. How is one better than the other? We're all going to die. Everything is meaningless. The only thing is just to have a good time while you're living and, worship the Lord and keep the commandments. But what is it all about, really? And he comes to the conclusion that, yes, eventually, ultimately, you're supposed to be a good person. Even if you have everything, you'll still be lacking. Because the eyes will always want more. The ears will always want more. You will always want to go blah, blah, blah. You are just going to want more and more and more, right? We are consuming. However, there is that other side, that spiritual side. And if you give that its sustenance, then the physical world takes on its proper balance, and the physical body takes on its proper balance. And that's right, that discernment and that caution is what the commandments are all about. It's like 613 frickin' commandments. Like, yes, 613, and not one person can do them all. Some are for men, some are for women, some are for priests, some are for kings, some are for prophets, some are for Nazarites. You can't do them all. Nota says, I like this man. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I like this man. I'm going to read it like that, right? Because I'm not... Loci 3:326 says, read the prophecies. It only points in one direction. Christ is God. So I disagree. Christ is not God. I agree that it all points in one direction. It points back to Torah, to the original covenant of the Hebrew people, and says, hey, you kind of forgot something back there. You're treating people like crap. You're not keeping the Sabbath. You're not freeing your slaves. You're murdering people. You're doing wrong, sleeping with your man's wife, with your friend's wife. None of that. Don't do any of that. Be righteous. Look at the Torah. Look at Abraham. Look at Isaac and Israel and Jacob and Moses. Follow the Torah. That's what the prophecies are pointing back to. That's what I'm thinking. Ja Flap Drolja says, belly crawling creature, ew. Are you talking to me, dude? I crawl on my belly regularly because I like to roughhouse with my kids. So I am a belly crawling creature, ew. Definitely. And I love every second of it. People, if you don't roughhouse with your kids, you should. It's a lot of fun. Hadley Shands asked, how do we get to higher consciousness? So first of all, if you have a tradition that's your faith and your way, and you have elders and you have sages, ask them first. But basically, how do you get to higher consciousness? You be a good person. You talk to yourself like you don't know yourself, right? You ask yourself truly what it is that I could be doing better. What are things that I'm doing wrong that I should uproot? But basically, higher consciousness, meditation, silence, prayer, and being a good person, it can expand your mind. Now, you can also expand your mind through external things like different substances, organic and laboratory made alike, right? Organic and synthetic. But that should always be a supplement and not the actual thing. The bulk of your higher consciousness experiences should come from within and not from without. And I say this every time. You should expand your mind. Yeah, I smoke weed to get higher, says Jason. By all means, smoke weed, but take it easy. Treat that herb with respect, right? It's medicinal, it's spiritual, it's psychedelic, but it can also cause you physical and psychological harm. It could also get you addicted psychologically. It could also get it to be habitual to such a degree that you're always around people who smoke weed, always looking to smoke weed. Oh man, this would be so good. I wish I had some weed. That's no good. Don't do that. I mean, I'm not telling you what to do. It's best if you don't. Robert says you handle trolls good. You know what? The trolls, they're just trying to get it out. They need, like I said the other day, like Nelson, right? Gotta nuke something. So yeah, replace bad habits with good, says Michael Wainwright. Yes, I'm inclined to agree. I'm inclined to agree because that would literally force your neural connections to rewire. And the physical and the spiritual mirror each other. And so when you are able to rewire yourself physically in the brain and in the mind, that's downstream or upstream, depends how you look at it, from the spiritual awareness, right, and consciousness and the expansion of the way that you view the world and the way that you view yourself. And the more that you do good in the world in a way that's also that's irritable, not irritable, that is iteratable, then that will help you to widen your sphere of influence. First it would be just you, and then those around you, and so on, like throwing a pebble into a pond. There's vodka in that cup, I promise. No, it's wild berry tea, and I'm enjoying it immensely. CW says he handles anger with alcohol as a typical Hasidic Jew. No, I have not had alcohol in 15 years. I gave up alcohol when I took my vow, even though alcohol is not part of the vow. Wine, grape wine is, but all alcohol is permissible, but I took on alcohol anyway, so yeah. So no, Hasidic Jews drink all day. Sure, they don't drink all day. Also, I'm not a Hasidic Jew. I'm a fan of Hasidism, but I'm not a Hasidic Jew by any means. And so they don't drink all day, but they definitely have times when they drink, right? When they are with the Farbrengen and the Hitvadus, and definitely they can drink, for sure. But, here, wait, he said show it. You want to see my tea? Can you see it? It's tea. It's dark tea, wild berry tea. It's very good. ROSZ, how do you handle frustration? Good question. There are times when I don't. There are times, especially when it's like interpersonal frustration. If I'm frustrated with my woman or with my kids, I can sometimes get angry. I can sometimes raise my voice, and I don't handle it well. That's why I'm back in therapy. I want to handle my anger better, my frustrations better. How do you handle frustration? It's a very good question. It's a very good question. And I can't say, how do I handle? Well, I'll tell you this. Some frustration I'm still working on, okay? Let's grant that and put that aside. The frustrations that I have been able to deal with, I've been able to deal with them primarily by knowing that worrying about things or being frustrated will only exacerbate whatever negative emotions I have, and that will cause me to spiral down. And I know this because I've done it in the past. So learning from my past and having a memory of the past and how I don't want to do that means that if I can ground myself, whether it's with affirmations, whether it's with meditation, whether it's with going live and doing this and taking my mind off of it and getting some perspective. Listen, this is also why, by the way, I frequent two subreddits regularly. I frequent the Forever Alone subreddit, and I frequent the Dead Bedroom subreddit. And I do that to gain perspective, right? The Forever Aloners are people who are touch-starved, never had a girlfriend, never held hands, never kissed anybody, never married anybody, and are, just in a bad place. Some of them have medical issues, and some of them have mental issues, and some of them just have bad luck. Some of them have bad genes. I don't know what. Forever alone. It's a terrible condition, right? Really terrible. And us normies, I know for a fact that I could never truly understand what that's like, especially since I married my first girlfriend who I met when I was 16. So I'm definitely, and the second is the dead bedroom subreddit, which is people in relationships that are not having sex. Again, it could be medical and it could be otherwise, but there's a separate medical subreddit for that. The reason why I do that is to gain perspective. And I'm giving you this entire thing to tell you that the best way to deal with frustration is to understand that frustration is ordinarily, usually, not 100% of the time, simply a result of your expectations. So if you're able to gain perspective and widen your perception, you'll be able to see that your expectations sometimes are based simply on your wants and your ego and what you think you deserve in a given situation. Sometimes you'll be right, sometimes you'll be wrong. The frustration comes from the gap between what you thought, usually, right, and what came to you. But if you act with humility, and if you have perspective, and if you're able to widen your perception in that way, you will be able to be frustrated a lot less. Because then you won't come into situations thinking you deserve A, B, or C. You'll see them as great blessings, right? You'll see them as God gracing you with A, B, or C, not something you necessarily deserve. Now, again, this is not 100% of the time, and there will be times when you do something expecting something for a very good reason, and still people will frustrate you by acting improperly, by not doing their job, by throwing you under a bus. I don't know, proverbially. So I don't know. It really does depend on a case-by-case basis, but I've found that what helps me handle frustration is humility and perception. Something like that. Okay, let's continue. Don't bite them, trolls get bored, says Noda. The trolls cannot make this man mad. Well, I'm going to get mad at some people online whose lives are so devoid of joy, I guess, that what they do is they go online to a random live and they type negative things about a person they know almost nothing about. I feel sorry for these people. I truly have sympathy for these people. Their lives must be so full of disappointment and sadness and hatred because this is what is coming out of them. It's what's coming out of them, right? At a random person who's done nothing to them, which only causes me to feel bad for the people who they do engage with on a regular basis, because, oh no. And some people are simply extremists. Some people are radical in their behavior and in their thoughts, and I have no problem with that. That's why I don't kick anybody out. That's why I don't ban anybody. That's why I don't censor anybody. You want to take it out? You want to get it out of your system? Get it out. I can take the slings and arrows of you trolls. Truly, I can. A, because I know that most of what you're saying is not true. B, because I'll agree with you. And C, because I'm willing to debate and argue and, and accept the certain things that you come to the conclusion are, yes, I'm this and that and the other. So I have no problem. If anything, they are enlightening me and they are helping me to become better. CW says, I've only read the Only Testament every week for my entire life. I'm sorry, maybe you're reacting to someone else there? I'm not sure what you mean. CW says they've caused basically all the major problems since 9/11, and let's not forget Larry Silverstein owned Building 7-2. I don't know who Larry Silverstein is, but okay. I'm not sure who you mean. So, okay, yes, there's this idea that Jews are responsible for all of the horrors and the woes and the troubles and trials and tribulations of the world. Now, somebody who thinks that 0.2% of the population is in charge for all of the trouble in the world is somebody who needs a serious reality check. Nobody is denying that there are Jews in positions of power. Nobody is denying that there are Jews in positions of, let's say, politics, industry, none of that. I'm not denying any of that. To say that we control the world, that's taking it a bit too far. And to say that we are actually responsible, right? Some Jewish cabal that's plotting your demise and destruction. I don't believe any of that, but feel free to believe it. If you let that run your life, and you actually think that in some building somewhere, in some dark room, there are men in suits and streimels, curling their payas and thinking of how they can bring more trouble into the world, I hope you have a good life. I really do, because that sounds like such a bad way to go through life. Truly, it does. Even more so, right? Because there's so much hatred, and yet you can do nothing about it. That makes you so impotent. I don't even know what I would do if I were you. So I really hope you will give it more thought, not because you're wrong, right? Even if, let's say, you're right, the Jews control everything. I'm sorry, you can do absolutely nothing about it. I feel for you. I really do. I don't think that's the case, but I feel for you. It should not be that way. Jonathan says you shouldn't marry your girlfriend, you should instead marry your wife. Good call. This dude is trolling. Everyone knows how evil you are, bro. Oh, everyone does? Everyone? Well, oh dang. The cat's out of the bag, I guess. Mm. I take such pleasure out of you haters and trolls. I take so much pleasure. I derive such pleasure out of conversing with you. Because some of you are dead certain that you know something so profound about me, about what's going on here, and you really know the truth about what's. Oh man, the responsibility that you have on your shoulders. I don't envy you. You're right, says CW. 0.2% of the population shouldn't have this much influence and power. Yes, okay. If you think that the Jews have that much influence and power, go right ahead. I don't know enough about what goes on behind closed doors. I know that religion can corrupt people, power can corrupt people, money can corrupt people, politics, well, kind of the same as power, can corrupt can corrupt people. And there are Jews in positions of politics, industry, money, blah 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 blah. So I'm going to say, okay, but let's put it this way. If they're controlling you, they're also controlling me. Also, if you look at the history of the Jewish people, if you're saying that the Jews control the world, why is it that the Jews have suffered so much at the hand of the world? You would think that this Jewish cabal, this mysterious collection of Jews that are controlling everything and have a say in their hand in all these pies, will be able to get rid of these, So which one is it? Belief corrupts people. Well, belief doorway 256 definitely has the capacity for corrupting people. I think belief can be very noble. I think belief can be very elevating. I think belief can be a transcending thing that a human being can acquire. However, also, there is the downside because we live in a world of good and evil. We live in a world of duality. And it means that if you have this benevolent and wonderful side of belief, you also have the crappy, judgmental, and malevolent side of belief. So both of those exist at the same time, right? Our sages say in the lore of our fathers in Pirkei Avot in the Mishnah, you should always be seeing yourself on a balance, where if you do a good thing, congratulations, the entire world is now more towards the good. If you do a bad thing or you transgress, whatever, then too bad, woe to you, you've just caused the entire world to be that much more on the side of bad. So you should always see life in a balance and do what you can at any given moment, at any given time and place, to do what's good. Right? They said, "B'makom she'ein anashim hishtadel lihiyot ish," where there are no people, try to be a person. In other words, try to do good. Try to do the right thing. Try to do the righteous thing. And even though there's a raging debate over what righteousness is, that's what they say. Be a good person. Be a good person. All right. Let's continue. I like what this guy has to say, says William Barry 8015. Thanks, I appreciate the kind words. Or the encouragement, I should say. Handy Andy says, this isn't a formal theological debate. No, I'm not formal. I'm not a theologian, and I don't debate. I'm just talking. Why did you skip my question, says Holy Roller. Skip your question. Holy Roller, why did you... Oh, I'm sorry, you did that again. So wait, where is your question? I'll try and see it up here in the chat. Holy Roller, or write it again. Somebody or you. Write it again. I don't see it. I'm sorry, maybe I missed it. I don't know where it is. Write it again. I'll try and pay attention. I'll try and pay attention. I'm sorry, man. Lucifer says, JB, I want to convert to Judaism. Congratulations. Find a master and start learning. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Robert. I appreciate it. I do. I love the Jewish people, says Richard Carl or Kale 786. Thanks, man. Much love from Jerusalem. If you convert, you will be just as illegitimate as all Ashkenazis, says Michael. All right. What does that mean? There are so many different conversions he can go through. So it's not necessarily, even if you say, no, 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 only the Orthodox rabbinic conversion is the proper one, that still doesn't make him an Ashkenazi. Seriously. Look, Michael, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. I'm reading your comments that I'm seeing when they come in. I'm not making head or tail of what you're saying other than spewing hate. You're not backing this up with anything of substance. So I want to see your point of view. You're making it very difficult to see your point of view, let alone agree with you. Are you a Netanyahu supporter? Asks Jan Frankenberger 9424. No, I am not. I haven't voted for 20 years, or just over 20 years, because politics is a dirty game and I will not play their game. However, because of this recent war that's ongoing, I will be voting in the next election, and maybe then I'll stop again until the grave, but I will be voting in the next election, if only to kick him out of office. He needs to go. I don't know what the alternative is. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I don't know what people's platforms are. I'm not a political man, and I don't support any of these politicians because it's a dirty game. And by the time you get to these higher ranking positions in politics in your party, in the Knesset, you're probably dirty and, hands filled with blood and guts and mud. And I don't want any part of it. People say it's your civic duty to vote. I say no. It's my civic duty to also not play the game if I think it's a dirty game. But Netanyahu needs to go. And I'm willing to say, okay, maybe he was the best that Israel ever had. Okay, we still need new blood in the system. We need new people in the system to step up and take command. So no, I am not a supporter of Netanyahu. I never was. I can support a thing or two that he did here and there, obviously. I think he's a very accomplished politician and a very shrewd statesman. I don't think I've ever voted for him. Maybe once 20-something years ago, when he was one of the only right-wing candidates that was around. I don't know. But if I did, it was only that one time, and I've since not voted because of that, because it's a dirty game and I don't want to participate. And I will be voting next time. So am I a Netanyahu supporter? No. I support none of them. I support none of them. But I think I will vote next time, and we'll have to see when that time comes who I will be supporting and what I will be doing. I also, by the way, I also believe that my vote counts for nothing, and that the people who are really in control are the businessmen and the lobbyists who nobody voted for, who are whispering at the ears of these elected statesmen, but it's not them making the decisions. I believe that the politicians are puppets. I believe that these politicians are just marionettes, and the people who are controlling them do not get voted in. And nobody in the general population has a say, right? It's power and money and that whole thing. Kristen says he's making Israel look bad, in my opinion. Was there something before that? Okay, you can think that. By all means, do. Jews whisper in those ears. Well, yeah, of course. The Jewish people whisper in the ears of the Jewish people, yes. Caroline, are you in Israel right now? Yes, I'm in Jerusalem. Nice to meet you digitally, Caroline 7152. Many Jews have German last names. Yes, it's correct. They have last names that bespeak all kinds of places, because that's where they came from after they were kicked out of Judea. People have a real problem with this. The last name has only been around for a few hundred years. Not that long. The tribes of Israel were around for much, much longer. Holly Trawler says, I'm not a hater. I like what you say, but I'd like to know why you find it acceptable to look homeless. Acceptable by whom? Who am I supposed to gain? Whose acceptance am I supposed to gain, first of all? Second of all, even if I seek to gain the acceptance of those outside of me, which I'm not, why it's acceptable? Because the hair of the Nazarite is supposed to grow wild, and the beard of the Hebrew man is also supposed to grow, not wild necessarily, but I never really shaved, so that's what it is. I believe in the natural human look, because whether you'd like to think it or not, all of humanity that has ever been, its origins looked like this, the men anyway, with long matted hair and a beard. That's part of what the men looked like. And just because now we live in a society, particularly in the Western society, that has different attributes of beauty and aesthetics that they think a person should, go by and look like, I choose to not do that. But I'm certainly not looking for anybody's acceptance of this. I realize that I, in many cases, am the outlier. And Robert Harrison just the other day reminded me of the time that I was going home after working in the library. I worked from I was typing in the library in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and I was taking a train home, and he reminded me of that time that a few people came on the train and they sat next to me talking in English, which they didn't know that I spoke, and they wondered between themselves if I'm homeless. And I thought to myself that I'm going home to the best home ever with my wife and kids and the dog that was still alive at the time. And I want for nothing, and I'm so blessed. And yet people take a look and say, oh, I wonder if he's homeless. Well, they can keep on wondering. That's fine by me. There are many people out there who wish that they would have the type of life that, a home to go to, a loving wife to come home to, kids to come home to, a doggo. It's like these are things that some people may consider basic, but I consider them a great wonder. I don't take it for granted for a second, right? That's why I say that I visit the subreddits of Forever Alone and of the Dead Bedroom, precisely because of this, right? To gain this perspective. Some people might see it as very basic. Oh, yeah, sure, get married, have kids, everybody. No, no, not everybody gets married. Not everybody has kids. It's a privilege and an honor and a duty and a responsibility to take on a wife and kids. It's a burden, and I'm so grateful to Adonai, the Most High God, that I'm able to sustain this life, that I'm able to live with my woman of over 20 years already, and to have these kids, I don't take it for granted in the least. So looking homeless is something that is not a prerequisite for being in society or not being in society, and I don't have to adhere to any rules or regulations that others are trying to impose on me physically, right, as far as how I look. And most of humanity looked like this. Most of the guys that have ever lived looked like this, right, way back. So yeah, so that's why I find it acceptable to look homeless, I think. Luddite says, if I ask a really good question, will you answer it now? I answer good questions and not good questions. It's all a case of whether or not I see it in the chat. So I'm sorry, you'll have to maybe say it a few times until I catch it. I used to go one by one, but with all the chat going on now, and I want to engage more off the cuff in the sense of that I want to answer things as they come in. So I'm sorry, you might have to say it, type it up a few times or copy paste. Where your family comes from, says Jen Frankenberger. So the recent family from the States, before that from Europe, and before that from Judea. And now I'm back. We are back here in Judea. Clyde says, keep telling yourself that humanity looked like you, bub. Okay, so you're telling me that men, before they had, way back when, you know what? Okay, fine. Not most of humanity, fine. Ancient humanity, let's put it that way. Ancient humanity. The guys had long hair, long matted hair, and a beard. They had no shampoo. They had no conditioner. They didn't have a comb. What is it? Okay, you know what, man? Let's say, Clyde, I'm honestly asking, what is it that you think human guys looked like, all of these things that are used for grooming a hair and beard? Tell me, honestly. I'll believe you if you make a good case. What is it that you think Homo sapien males looked like? Tell me, I'd love to know. CW says, don't they claim the tribe of Dan is in Ethiopia? Well, look, the 10 lost tribes are still lost by and large. Some people claim Menashe in India, Dan in Ethiopia, or was it Dan? Possibly Dan, yes. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it could be that they are absolutely right because they have their own traditions, right? So I'm not going to say they're wrong. Claims are being made all the time. The thing is this. All the tribes were dispersed and they were mixed up and so many wars and exiles and conversions. So now, if you're a Hebrew, you're a Hebrew. And when the time comes that the tribes will come again, the 10 lost tribes, the unification of the two kingdoms and that whole thing, should it come to pass, then each and every one of us will know who we belong to, where we belong to. And even then, it's not a question of segregation or separation, right? We are 12 that are one and we are human beings, right? Forget the nations, Israel and Goyim. Forget all that. We are a human people, a human race. And I would love for us to get together and be united. I really, really would. It'll take time. Ideally through love. Michael says, this guy thinks not grooming makes him closer to God Almighty, not the lying and the killing of children. That has nothing to do with anything. And it's not the not grooming that makes the Nazarite closer to God Almighty. It's not the question of not grooming. The hair represents the crown, right? It says it in Numbers 6. The crown of consecration is upon the head of the Nazarite man or woman, which means that it's something that I'm supposed to be attaining. It's not something that I have immediately. The Nazariteship is a vow that is supposed to help you achieve whatever goal you wanted to achieve, depending on why you took your vow. In the scripture, there's absolutely no reason why anybody should take the vow. It's not stated X happens, take the vow. No, none of that exists. So I don't think that not grooming makes you closer to God. I think that those who take on the Nazariteship have the potential of unlocking certain paths of energy and divine revelation that not everybody can because of the way that they live their lives, right? Because of, look, you can be completely bald. You can be a 45-year-old bald man and take the Nazarite vow, and you're a Nazarite. You don't need to have hair. All the Nazariteship says is if you do have hair, let it grow wild, because it represents the crown coming from within the scalp, growing from the topmost part, the crown of the head, all the way down as low as it can go, representing the divine revelation from the top to the bottom, like water, right? Coming from the highest point to the lowest point. So you can think that that's what I think, but I never said that. I never said that not grooming makes you closer to God. I said that if you take on the vow of the Nazarite, you have the potential of becoming closer to who you really are in the image of God. And as such, knowing yourself made in the image of the Creator will automatically bring you closer to the revelation of the Creator. But no, I'm not going to get closer to God. Closer means proximity, space, time, the physical universe. I won't get closer to anything. I get closer to the divine revelation, to the emanations and the influence of the divine. That's what I get close and further away from. Not God. I don't know God. All I know is revelations of God. Again, Michael, you're making all these assumptions based on nothing, and you're not backing them up with any claim that is viable. So you really, really are talking out of your ass, man. I'm sorry. If you brought anything of substance to the table, then I can address it in a way that's a lot more concrete and give you this, that, or the other to the best of my ability. But you're saying all these things that I didn't say in a way that I did not mean, and the lying and killing of children has zero to do with this. You really, what you're saying really undermines the point you're trying to make. Sorry, guy, you'll have to do better. They think sacrifices brings them closer, says CW. Again, wrong again. Sacrifices don't bring you closer. It's just that when you bring a sacrifice, you unlock a channel within yourself. God doesn't need sacrifice. God doesn't need anything. It's you who needs to bring it. It's you who needs to bring the vegetarian offering, right? Or the animal sacrifice, whatever the case may be, because it changes something about you going through that ritual. If it's an animal sacrifice, you think, oh God, it could have been me. I could have been dead right now. My throat could have been slit. I should do what I can with the rest of my life to get my head out of my ass and do good and be a good person. Or if it's a vegetarian offering, what comes from the land, you ought to be thinking, this came from the land. I also came from the earth. I should stay away from wickedness and be able to transcend my physical earthly nature. But the ritual itself is not for God. It's for the people who are undergoing it. So you too as well, CW. You're not making enough of a point. You're not actually backing your words up with anything that I'm saying. So do so if you want to have an actual discussion, right? That's what I'm here for. Linguistic obfuscation. Chris, Chris Dragota, you're talking about me? I'm not obfuscating anything. I'm straight up. I'm like an open book. I might be wrong. Let's put it that way. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying here's what I think, and this is why what they are saying makes no sense. And should someone give me the proper, way of seeing what they are saying in a way that I can understand, because I'm ignorant, right? Then maybe I'll be able to agree with them. It just hasn't happened. Do you know that woman Hitler is an anagram for mother-in-law? That's funny. This is my happy discovery of the day. Ha, woman Hitler. That's funny. Stinky Paradox asks, what about Nazarite cosmology? Do you accept the first Adam was androgynous and in God's androgynous image as a Nazarite? Well, look, the Nazarite has nothing to do with what I believe. It's just a vow that I took. I go by the Torah, and the Torah says, right, Zacharu nekeva Abraham, male and female. And so the cosmology has nothing to do with it either. It has nothing to do with cosmology in the sense of the cosmos. It has to do with the fact that the Torah was written in the tongues of men, for men and women, right? For people, by people, for people. And that means that it's going to talk in such a way where we take physical attributes and physical terms in order to try and convey a spiritual meaning and teach us something about the relationship between the divine presence in this world and in the other realms. So, do I accept that first Adam was was androgynous? Yes, but we're talking about a metaphysical or spiritual creature, right? And we're talking about the fact that it wasn't necessarily a physical human being like you and I, right? And that they were born like Siamese twins, panim bepanim, achor be'achor. There's this idea of achor be'achor, which means that Adam and Eve, right? Adam Arishon, first Adam, was created male and female back to back. And then there was a kind of incision made, and then front to front, where they were able to come together and procreate and so on. This is a spiritual teaching. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were physically created like Siamese twins, like this, joined at the hip, joined at the butt, let's say, on the back. That's not the way to look at it. You should look at it in a way where these are physical ideas written in a physical scroll or a book that are supposed to be conveying a spiritual truth or a spiritual path or a way of conceptualizing the relationship between man and woman, man and God, right, the physical and the spiritual. So that's what I believe by and large. Handy Andy says, if God was real, I wouldn't have to pay $150 for a battery for my snowmobile. Just saying. Hey, Handy Andy, I feel for you, man. I really do. I don't know if it negates the reality that some people call God or not, but definitely, I hear you. That's not cool. $150? I hope you're able to rustle up the money and do what you need to do. Mr. D. Michael says, can God add extra time to our lives? Let's put it this way. There is a revelation of God that pertains to time and space, right? That's part of this physical world, what's called Elohim, right? Also laws of nature, let's say. And I think it first of all depends on you, right? If you repent from your wicked ways, and I mean that in a broad generalization, not necessarily you, Mr. D. Michael, but the prophets say that if there is a wicked man and he goes and adopts a righteous way of life, he doesn't need to die because of his wickedness. He can live and prosper and thrive in righteousness. And so in that sense, you are the one who adds more time to your life by being righteous. Now, this also has to do, like I said, with the laws of nature. Part of the laws of nature is you could be the most righteous, you could be the most good towards everybody, you could be amazing at everything, you could be the paragon of virtue and goodness in the whole world, and still you're at the wrong time, at the wrong place, with the wrong crowd, something happens, and you die. Or you're doing great and you're amazing and you're a philanthropist and you give, you love humanity and then you get cancer and you're dead 3 months later. These things are part of the natural world, and we are operating in the natural world, and as such, there are no guarantees of anything. Nothing. We live in a world of duality, of good and evil, and as such, there is no guarantee of anything. You could be the best ever at anything and everything, and still something happens, a car runs you over, you're dead. You're dead. That's it. It's the way of the world. Tragedy strikes. Tragedy strikes. It's part of life, part and parcel of life. I am curious on your opinion, says Slaying VR. Well, did you have a question before that I missed? Or are you going to put it now? Well, either way, let me know. Let's continue. Good and evil, CW. What good has your people done for anyone? Tell me you're kidding. Tell me that you're kidding. You know what? I'm not even going to address that because it's so preposterous. Take a look. Ask ChatGPT, biased as it might be, hallucinating though it may be. Ask ChatGPT, what have the Jews done for humanity? Ask, straight up. I think you'll see. Address it, I dare you. Yes, I did. Why do you think death is tragedy? No, death is not tragedy. But it's tragedy for the people who are around you. That's why it's a tragedy. Death is not a tragedy. Death is part of life. Stinky Paradox says, so do you agree or disagree with modern Kabbalists in their strive for tikkun olam, healing the world to come by making it androgynous, I wouldn't assume you do, but I'm interested. Well, look, A, I'm not a Kabbalist. I'm a student of the Tree of Life, but certainly not a Kabbalist. B, modern Kabbalists, I don't know what they go by. There are different schools of thought in Kabbalah, and there are vast differences between them. So I'm loath to give you an answer without knowing the specifics of what you're talking about, but I will address it a little bit. I don't know what it means to make it androgynous. What I know is that Kabbalah is all about bringing together the divine feminine presence and the divine masculine presence. That is what we are shooting for. Leshem yichud kudusha brichu ushchintei in Aramaic, right? Uniting the Holy One, blessed be He, with the dwelling, which is male and female, masculine, feminine energy. And in doing that, right, we can bring about that tikkun olam. Tikkun, right, means something. Olam means something. Okay? These are not just words. They have specific meanings. And so, I don't know. You'll have to, stinky paradox, you'll have to give me more. You'll have to give me more. What is Tree of Life? The Tree of Life, Islam, is the 10 Sfirot. The 10 Sfirot of the Kabbalah. Your wisdom is simply staggering, says Mr. D. Michael. Well, I'm not wise, but I'm shooting for wisdom, that's for sure. I'm shooting for wisdom. Saying there's not Palestine is as rich or a lie as this white witch from Eastern Europe pretending he's actually from the tribe. Okay, Michael, once again, you keep making accusations, but you're not backing it up with anything. Now, Palestine was what Rome called the kingdom of Judah, right? And the realm of Judea. They renamed it Provincia Syria Palestina, Syria because of the Assyrians, Palestina because of the Philistines, because the Assyrians and the Philistines were rivals of the Jewish kingdom, of the kingdom of Judah. And they wanted the Jews to forget about the kingdom of Judah, to forget about Judea, and so they renamed the region Syria Palestina. There's no such thing as Palestinian people. And even if we grant the fact that there are Palestinian people who've lived here in the place that Rome earlier on called Syria Palestina, Jews are Palestinians too. Jews had a Palestinian passport in the British Mandate of Palestine. So we're also Palestinian. So now you're just like mincing words. So there are no Palestinians in the sense that there was never a Palestinian leader. There was never a Palestinian coin. There was never a Palestinian state. There was never a Palestinian country. There was never a Palestinian capital. None of this ever existed. The Palestinian flag and heritage is all an invention of the 1960s. Now, I don't disagree that there have been people here living in this land that are not Jews. Obviously, Christians, Muslims, Baha'i, Rasta, I don't know who, right? Hindus. And they have a place here, and they have a claim here. They say that we've been here for many, many generations, and we want to stay here. Fair enough. You want to stay here? We want to stay here. Nobody's going anywhere. Let's make peace. Let's learn to love each other. Let's build some bridges. Let's gain some common ground. Let's see where we can share. But instead, we have religious extremism and radical philosophies and ideologies that possess the people and cause them to bring about war, destruction, and hate from a very young age, right? The indoctrination goes deep, sometimes in both cases, but definitely in the side of our rivals over there. And so I'm truly hoping that we will have peace. It's the best thing ever. It's the thing that holds the most blessings, peace. And we are at a time of war. So I don't know if you were reacting to me, Michael, or not, but you're once again putting words in my mouth that I did not say, but I definitely agree. There is no Palestine in the sense of that there's no Palestinian people. And if there are Palestinian people, the Jews before 1948, under the British Mandate of Palestine, who also held Palestinian passports, are also Palestinian. So there was no such people, no such ancient people. But there are modern people here and now, not far from here, who people call Palestinians. And they should get their shit together, and they should stop having their terrorist government lead them, and they should make peace with Israel. That's what they should do. And Israel, by the same token, should get rid of the religious extremism that has grabbed hold of it and wherever it has grabbed hold, right? We should de-radicalize both sides and learn to make peace, because nobody's going anywhere. Peace and love, right? Justice, honesty. These are the attributes, right? These are the attributes. Okay, let's continue. Quran never mentions Israel, dummy. Really? Really? It doesn't mention Israel. It doesn't mention Jerusalem. It doesn't mention the children of the book. You are sorely mistaken. Truly, you are. But okay, let's go with that. Let's go with that. The state of Israel is not mentioned in the Quran. Obviously, the state of Israel is not mentioned. The modern incarnation of the kingdom of Israel, known as the State of Israel, is from 1948, right? Endorsed by the UN, declared independence here, and the war ensued, and so on. Nobody's disputing that. And that's why there's a great debate among the religious folk on whether or not the State of Israel is actually something that ought to exist or not. Some people say, yes, it's a question of the physical coming before the spiritual. And others say, no, you must have the spiritual come first and then build the physical vessel. And that's why the debate is raging on. But definitely, I agree, the State of Israel did not exist between 1948. The people of Israel did. The region that was called Israel definitely did. The tribes of Israel do exist in the different places, whether it was in the Holy Land or in the diaspora. And anyone who says differently doesn't know any history, truly. And again, if you're going to claim that I'm lying, making it up, show me, and I'll definitely address it. Okay, let's continue. No reference to an illegal European state. What? Man, Michael, man, you are making it really difficult to have a discourse and to have good discussion because you're bringing nothing to the table but accusations, backing it up with absolutely nothing. Nothing. And you're putting words in my mouth, unless you're responding to someone else with that, in which case I'm sorry, I misspoke. Buddy Griffith says, I'm Australian and currently not religious, but respect the origins of Jews and their long history. Well, again, some people think that we're just vermin who need to be exterminated and that we are responsible for all of the woes and troubles and diseases in the world. And other people think, no, it's a people that's very ancient and they've brought a lot of good things into the world, and wherever there are Jews, something good can come of it. And everybody in between. So I appreciate the kind words. Push away your history. Who wrote most of the books you've read? That's a huge issue. Agreed. History is written by the victors. I agree. The thing is that most of the last 2,000 years, the Jewish people have been in exile. The Jewish people were a minority. There was no Jewish majority ever. There was no Jewish state. There were different attempts to make a Jewish majority state and to break away. I know that there were at least 2, maybe 3 attempts throughout the last 2,000 years before 1948 to gain a kind of Jewish separatist state in any given place. I don't remember the name, but it has happened over the course of the last 2,000 years. It did happen twice, maybe 3 times. 2 for sure, maybe 3. So in that sense, history was written, yes, by the victors. No problem there. I agree. The question is, the Jews were the victors? No. The Jews lost to Rome in the time of the Second Temple. Rome burned the Second Temple. Rome kicked Israel out of Israel. Okay? Rome kicked Judah out of Judea. So the history that has been written, okay, before 2,000 years, we have the religious texts and the Second Temple era, or just after historians. And as for the modern day texts, yes, it's like the Jews were not the victors, meaning that whoever wrote those books, they didn't write it from the perspective of the Jews are awesome, we kicked everybody's asses, we are the real people and the rest of you are vermin. That's not the case. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what you mean. Islam says, so according to your words, both Palestine and Israel don't exist. No, what I'm saying is that the state of Israel in its current incarnation, like the state of Israel, did not exist before 1948. The people did, the land did, the heritage did, the tribes did, all of that existed. Palestine existed in the sense of that there were people living here, Jews also, right, in a land that Rome called Syria Palestina. That's where we get the name, okay? There is no P in Arabic. There is no P. It's a Roman. The Arabs don't say P, they say B. They can't say no parking, they say no bugging. There's no P in Arabic. None. It really makes no sense. So, Rome renamed this place Syria Palestina as a province of Rome in an attempt to make the Jews forget about Judea. But like I said, many people lived here over the years. It was conquered and reconquered many times, right? The Crusades, the Mamluks, the Moors, not the Moors, that was Europe. Islam and Christianity fighting over the place, and then the sultans, right, of the Ottoman Empire, and then the British Empire, and now it's the State of Israel. So, the State of Israel did not exist, and it does now. A State of Palestine could have existed. Between 1948 and 1967, Gaza was under the rule of Egypt. Egypt did nothing. They didn't make any Palestinian state. They didn't support the Palestinian people. Nothing. East Jerusalem was under the rule of Jordan. Jordan at any time could have said, you know what? These poor Palestinians have suffered enough. This ancient people should be given a state of their own. We give you East Jerusalem, start your state. They did nothing of the sort. Nothing. Ever. And then in 1967, when Israel won the Six-Day War, all of a sudden people were like, oh, well, hey, that's ours. Bullshit. If people truly wanted a Palestinian state, it could have been done for those nearly 20 years of occupation, let's say, of Egypt occupying Gaza, Jordan occupying East Jerusalem. It could have been done. It wasn't done. Pray tell, why was it not done? You would think that Jordan and Egypt, who support their Palestinian brothers and sisters in their struggle against the Zionist oppressive machine of genocide, that they would have given them a state when it wasn't even in the hands of Israel. Let's think. Why did they not do it? Why? Okay, let's continue. All your ancestors, we all mixed. I'm not sure if you're talking about me or someone else in the chat. Stinky Paradox says Josephus, right? Josephus Flavius says the Hyksos were our people, their expulsion from Egypt in contemporary to the destruction of Jericho. Are Israelis open to these variables in history, or is it heretical? So it depends who you ask. I know that our sages, when they were compiling the different books for the Bible, they decided not to include the wars of the Jews, right, and not to include the books of Josephus Flavius, not as canon and not as sacred like history. They said that he was influenced too much by external sources. On the other hand, and I'm not saying that they were right either in doing that. I have no idea. I didn't live then, so I can't tell you. But some consider it actual proper history, and some consider it heretical. I have no opinion. I honestly don't have no opinion. So I definitely can't speak on whether or not all Israelis are open to it or not. Far be it from me to say what Israelis are open to or not. I only have me. I'm speaking just for myself, and myself does not have enough. I have not done enough research into those books. So I can't give you, I can't give you an answer just because I'm ignorant and I can't give you an answer. I'm sorry. So it depends who you ask. Some people will consider it proper history, others would consider it heresy, but I don't know for myself. Push Away says, it's amazing how many religious groups try to destroy the opposition's outlook, LOL. Religion can be so great, infinite, but also so evil. I agree. I really do. The indifference between good and evil, man. Yeah, it's true. Religion can be a source of great benevolence and of great malevolence. People, when people do things in the name of God, they can do horrible things to each other, take zero accountability, because, oh, God told me it's the righteous thing to do. I am serving the world and making it a better place by doing X, Y, Z. And you'll never convince them otherwise because they have faith. And they will never open their eyes because they consider their eyes to be open to the max. It's a problem. It really is a problem, which is why I say this all the time. The Torah has good and evil in it because it's a world of good and evil. And the Torah was given to human beings to perform the commandments, right? And we are living in a world of good and evil. And as such, the Torah, if you want to see the horrible evils, you'll see it in there. And if you want to see the amazing righteous goodness, you'll see it in there. What is it that you are looking for? What path are you pursuing? That's what you'll be, right? There's a phrase in the Talmud, "B'derech she'adam rotzeh lelech molichin oto." On the path where a person wants to go, there he will be led. So yes, that's what I'm thinking. Michael says, Israelis kicked out Palestinians so they can have a pride parade down the streets of Jerusalem. So again, you don't get to start a war and then cry that you lost it. No, sorry, you can't. And definitely the Arab nations are the ones who started the war, rejected the UN's proposition of a partition. They are the ones who did not accept it. So it's on them. You see what I'm saying? You don't get to start a war and then lose it and then cry that you're the victim. No, you are the perpetrator. You are the one who lost, And by virtue of losing, you don't get to a war that you started. You don't get to cry and say that you're the victim. That's it. That's everybody. Everybody, all the wars that have ever been fought will agree, right? Everybody. As for having a pride parade down the streets of Jerusalem, I don't like pride. I'm not a fan of pride. Okay? I'm not a fan of pride. Individual pride, or I think you should have a tiny amount of it and know when to deploy it. To walk down the street and call it a pride parade when there is so much acceptance already down the streets of Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Haifa, Akko, and all over Israel of gay people, I think that while it can be useful to those who are still in the closet and are afraid, it has lost its, I'm not going to say it's lost its validity, but I'll just say that in a land that is so accepting of the homosexual and lesbian community, I think it can stop. Now, I'm not homosexual or lesbian, right? I'm not gay or lesbian. I have parts of those in me. I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm straight, I'm trans, I'm everything. Whatever you want me to be, I am. However, I have never gone to a pride parade just because I think that even by virtue of the name, I take issue with the name. You're not supposed to have pride. Pride goes before a fall. On the other hand, I do understand that people who have been hidden away and oppressed and closeted for such a long time, when they burst out, they come guns blazing. And that's what we're seeing now. So hopefully we will be able to reach an equilibrium. We will be able to reach a balance. That's what I'm hoping. I truly am hoping that we will be able to reach a balance. As for kicked out Palestinians, yes, you start a war and then you lose. You don't get to say you were kicked out. You can say, I lost a war that I started. Be truthful. You weren't kicked out. And if you were kicked out, it was your Palestinian, Arab, Muslim leaders who said, go, leave your home, we'll take care of the cockroaches, then you can come right back. We'll drive all the Jews into the sea, and boop, bop, beep, 5 days, and you'll be back where you were, and, having hummus and smoking your shisha. Incidentally, I love a good hummus and shisha session. Ariel says, I agree with pride. Pride is kind of a form of self-love, and God is one, so nothing wrong with this, in my opinion. It's a problem. It's a problem. It really is a problem. Because calling it pride from the get-go, even though I understand, again, you can only push people so far before they just boing, and now we are seeing that breaking out, and then it's in pride. But at some point, I hope that we will. At some point, I hope we'll reach a balance. Do you smoke pot? No, I do not, Robot Lover. I used to. I used to love to take a hit or two from a joint before I go to sleep, or when I'm chilling with my wife at the end of the day when the kids are down. I loved it. Other times in my life, I smoked more, I smoked less. I always took tolerance breaks. I always showed respect to the plant. I can't say in absolutely 100% of the time, but 90-something% of the time I showed respect. It is a sacred herb, and I treated it as such. So I am a fan of pot, but I do not smoke pot, no. I am now understanding from smoking herb. Okay, just don't make the mistake of thinking that herb bestows some kind of wisdom on you. Smoke it if you want, integrate it into your life, and know when to cut the herb out, know when to take a break, and don't equate different insights that you get from the herb with things that you earned. Once you integrate it and you live it out in your life, then it can consider yours, right, by virtue of earning it. But simply smoking herb and expanding your mind with an external chemical, that has its goods, right? It has its good and bad, its positives and its negatives. So I hope that you're able to balance your pot usage in a way where it will be beneficial, right? What did Bob Marley say? When you smoke the herb, you reveal you to yourself, right? And that does indeed happen. But the self-revelation that's even greater is one where you reveal you to yourself through prayer and study and meditation, things of that sort. But definitely the herb can be very useful for reasoning, for meditating, for praying if you're into that. But it's important to know also when to give it a break. Push Away says it's a big time waster. Herb is medicine, not a daily use thing. Yeah, for many people it is medicinal. For other people, it's a daily use thing just to get high. I understand those who use it medicinally. I understand those who use it physically, spiritually. I understand those who use it as a way to escape reality and, just for recreation. I've done all of those things at different points in my life, which is also why I stopped, because I got everything that I could out of it pretty much, so I don't smoke anymore. but I'm definitely a fan. It's a wonderful plant. It's good for so many things. It's a treasure trove of uses. Israelis are no different, says Michael. They are Western settlers. Again, you cannot be. How are you a Western settler? How? You came from here. I am a Jew that has roots in Judea, the kingdom of Judah. I don't deny that there was a point in my life where my ancestors were in Europe or in the West, right? But that doesn't mean that that's our origin. It means, for instance, that throughout all of the time that my family was in the States, throughout the entirety of the time that my family was in Eastern Europe, Western Europe, or anywhere that they were, the prayers that they said, they were facing Zion. The longing they had was towards Zion. The names they gave their kids were Hebrew names. Do you understand what I'm saying? So even if we were in different places geographically, we always kept Zion in our hearts and in our minds and on our tongue, longing to be back there. And indeed, we are back here now. So I'm agreeing with you on that, but I'm disagreeing that that as such nullifies any claim to want to go back to where you came from. Truly. Okay. Joseph says, from the way you are speaking, I really like the way you look into each thing you're talking about, coming at it from more than just your belief, because I know that I don't know anything. All I know is that I know nothing. I'm ignorant of so many things. For me to come with belief would be highly presumptuous. And rounding out your understanding of the topic. Yes, and my understanding is lacking. I only have what's in front of me, right? I can only play with the hand that I'm dealt. So while I do have some preconceived notions about how I ought to live my life, I'm not so arrogant as to think that I should come with preconceived notions over how others ought to live their lives. And this idea of lived experience, even though it's been run into the ground with people who think it abstains them from accountability or responsibility, I'm of the opinion that for the individual, it can be highly beneficial to take it into account, but not to tell other people how to live. So I appreciate the encouragement, Joseph Bryant. YouTube RNR. Nice to see you again, YouTube RNR. The Tanakh says Messiah will die for our transgressions, and it also says that God will prolong his days, and also that he'll be called Everlasting Father. What are your thoughts on that regarding Jesus? I believe that Jesus was a Hebrew man who lived and died a Hebrew man. You could say he was resurrected after 3 days, fine, but then we don't worship the dead, and we don't follow them as God incarnate. So Jesus is not my Savior, not my Lord, not my King, not my God, not my anointed one. He's just a guy that I can learn a lot from, but I don't follow him in any way. I follow his teachings, if that. Love thy neighbor, love thy God, be humble. If you're talking to the people, talk to them in a way that will be able to come from the heart and into theirs, in a way where your words will have an effect and will be able to go into the minds of those who hear them. All of that you could say that I get from reading the gospel, and I only did it once, but I kind of saw that mirrored there. I might be wrong. So all of those prophecies, right? Prophecies are meant to turn you back to Torah. All the prophecies in the Bible are supposed to point you back to the original Hebrew covenant of Moses, right? The Torah. So it doesn't matter to me if it says that there will be a Messiah or not. It's not a commandment, according to some anyway, to anoint a king. It's permissible, but it doesn't have to be. Remember what Samuel told the people when they wanted to crown a king. He said, Adonai is your king. Don't take on a king of flesh and blood. It's not a good thing. As for the different prophecies that people who follow Jesus say, oh, look, Jesus is there and Jesus is there, and look, oh, that's Jesus and that's Jesus, oh, and that speaks of Jesus. I say, okay, you can think it speaks of Jesus. I don't. I simply don't. And I believe that all of the prophecies are supposed to turn you back to Torah. And in Torah it says, do not go seeking the dead. Lo lidrosh el hametim. There is no God incarnate, and you're not supposed to worship the dead. And you're not supposed to use the dead in order to communicate spiritually with others. And I see that, at least in part, as what some Christians are doing. And that's how I see it. But as far as Jesus as such, as a Hebrew man, I believe he lived and died a Hebrew man, maybe quite righteously. I don't know, I wasn't around at the time, but he seemed very righteous to me from the reading of the gospel. And even if we say that there was a claim in the Talmud that he started off as a great sage but went astray, I can't judge him for that, because what the hell do I know? I may have gone astray as well. I still go astray in my own personal life now, and I'm trying to rectify that. I'm going to judge someone else. What a waste of time that is. Cube, six side, isn't that like Jew? Sorry, no offense, I don't know. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but yes, Hebrew is like Jew. But Jew means of Judea, or of the tribe of Judah, or of the kingdom of Judah. Hebrew means one of the 12 tribes, somebody who sticks to the covenant of God and the Israeli people, right? The Israeli nation, the Israelites. And I know that many people say that Hebrews are blacks, and I'm saying, okay, cool. Hebrews are blacks. I still consider myself a Hebrew because I was born Jewish. So Hebrew is just named after Ever. Avram is named Avram the Hebrew, Avram HaIvri. And this has three main interpretations. One, that he studied in the yeshiva, the Beit Midrash of Ever, the great-grandson of Noah. B, that he was on one side of the river and he crossed the river to get to the other side, Ever. That's Ivri. And third, that he is, spiritually and philosophically speaking, because he was a monotheist, he was on one side and everyone else was on the other side. Those are the three classic interpretations of the word Hebrew, and I sort of take all of them in, which is why I call myself a Hebrew. I don't often call myself a Jew because a Jew is very limiting. With Jew, there's many associations that I don't concur with, a lot of negative associations, and I want to keep my mind broad and open to not just Judea or the Jewish kingdom or the tribe of Judah. Right, the Hebrew people are much more vast than that. That's why I use Hebrew. But yes, it's Jew, essentially. Alan says, I want to see what the shirt says, boss. All right, can you read it or can you not? It's just an elephant. Here we go. I don't know if you can read it or not, but yeah, there it is. Of what I heard you say for the last 5 minutes, Hebrew is closer to spirituality. Well, look, there's the Jewish faith and organized religion is one thing, but the Hebrew, and that's why I said it's more vast. Hebrew is just another word for Israelite, one of the 12 tribes of Israel. The religion of the 12 tribes is this and that, and do this and don't do that, right? And worship like this and not like that. So definitely, but they coincide, right? The Hebrew faith and the Hebrew spirituality coincide. But because of the exile and the diaspora, and because of the death and destruction of the temple, now everything is mixed up, right? We have no temple, we have no Sanhedrin High Court, we have no proper rabbinic smicha, the laying of the hands, and so that mixes a lot of things up when it comes to religion. So I love to stick to certain aspects of the religion, but I cherry pick. I cherry pick everything, people. I cherry pick and I make no apology. But my principle, my guiding principle is, if Jonathan, if you are going to cherry pick something, you ought to know why you are cherry picking it, and you ought to make it a good, ripe, juicy cherry. Don't pick the nasty, rotten cherries. Pick the good stuff. That's my guiding principle. But I cherry pick everything. I am a cafeteria man of faith, and I make no apology. Now, some people may say that that's heresy, and that I'm a heretic. So, okay, let it be. May it, you're free to think that, Hebrew is like the OG Jew. Yeah, I suppose, right? Because Jews are the remnants of Judea. Jews are the remnants of the kingdom of Judah. All right? Look, most of the Hebrew people did not return from the first exile to Babylon. Most of those who returned did not return from the exile of Edom. Each time that we were kicked out of the land, we lost a ton of people. So now we are considered, the modern day Jews, to be the remnants of the remnants of the remnants of the Hebrew people, of the 12 tribes. And that comes with a lot of problems, a ton of problems because of that. Right? I liken it many times to the leftovers of a great feast, where if you walk into this banquet hall, right, and you see these crumbs, right, and these pieces of, it may be excellent, it might even still be edible, but are you partaking of the crumbs, or are you partaking of the feast? And I said to myself, Jonathan, man, you need to understand that what your existence now is all but the crumbs. Where you need to be, the crumbs might give you sustenance, and the crumbs might nourish you, and the crumbs might be this memory of what once was, but what are you shooting for? Are you shooting for survival, or are you shooting for thriving? Is it all going to be a struggle, or is it going to be a prosperous existence? And the more I delved into Torah, and the more I delved into life here in Israel as a Hebrew man, the more I understood, yes, I need to understand that those crumbs have merit, but not forget about the banquet that took place. And where I can, and it's not everywhere, I try to attach myself more to that ancient path, right? The Edenic path of being a human guy. That's it. After that, right, we go with the Hebrew faith, the Hebrew way, which is why Torah and commandments mean a lot to me. That's why the Nazarite ship means a lot to me. But I certainly don't consider it right now here to be anything but crumbs and me shooting for the banquet. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a proper analogy, but it's always helped me. Let's see. Hey, Josh G is here again, or is it Josh G? Okay, let's continue. Just say you're a racial supremacist and safe your breath, says we're back. Really? Where have I shown supremacy of any kind right now? You know what? In case that I did, people, let me make something very, very clear. I am a simple dumbass here in the Middle East. I am not smarter than anyone. I'm not better than anyone. I'm not holier than anyone. I'm not superior to anyone. I try to lead life with a humility precisely because I know how ignorant, stupid, foolish, and lacking I am, right? I'm not a scholar, I'm not a sage, I'm not an academic, I'm not an educated man, I'm none of those things. So if you're telling me that I am a supremacist, back it up with actual things that I've said, things that I've written. Tell me, how am I acting better than anybody? I'd love to know, and maybe I can learn from that and do better in the future, right? That's part of what I'm here for. Hey, Edwin, you said hi. Hello, Edwin. Hi there. Hi to you. Pushaway says, you did say the Palestinians need to get their shit together and stop supporting terror. Meanwhile, we could say the same thing about you and the government of Israel. Yes, I agree. I said there are extremists on both sides. The government makes mistakes. The army makes mistakes. The crucial difference is this. The Hamas seeks to make this whole area Islam, under the rule, right? Dar el-Islam. Right? In Islam, you have two paths, either the path of Islam or the path of the sword. That is it. The path of Islam or war until it comes under Islam. Which is why they say to us, convert or die. That's it. Those are the two options, convert or die. That is Islam here in a nutshell in the Middle East. Okay? So, what I'm saying is, they need to get their shit together because they have a genocidal government. Our government, despite people love saying it's a genocidal one, I'm not saying I don't follow it blindly, not the army or the government. Really, I'm not. Trust me if you want when I say that I don't. However, I do trust that we are not genocidal from the statistics, just numbers, right? The Palestinian population has been growing all the time on an upward trajectory, all the time, ever since the establishment of the State of Israel, definitely since 1967. So there's no genocide de facto going on with numbers. Second, there's no ideological genocide because genocide has a specific meaning, and certain people love to warp its meaning. The meaning of genocide is wiping out population with the intent of wiping out the population. Whereas what we have going on in Gaza, right, is Hamas hiding behind women and children and then claiming that they're victims. It's Hamas hiding rockets and missiles and whatnot and weaponry in schools and mosques and hospitals and then crying victim when the IDF blows them up, right? So what we have here are two very different systems of government, one that is clearly genocidal and one that is only ideologically, people who have this ideology of Jews are evil, genocidal. One of them is actually genocidal in reality and one of them is not. And if you look at the numbers, and if you look at the intent, and if you look at the relationship, if Israel wanted to wipe out Gaza, they would do it in a few days with a few bombs. That's it. No more. That's not what happened. On the other hand, if Hamas wanted to protect its people, it would have invested all of its billions of dollars of aid in actually building bomb shelters or the different tunnels for the civilians and the general population, and they didn't. They were killing their own people. They did not build any infrastructure. They took all of that aid money and they invested it in terrorism. And then they started a war again and lost it again. And now they're crying that they are the victims. And look at those horrible Israeli, Zionist, oppressive a-holes. And people believe them because people hate Jews, but that doesn't mean that it's actually so. So when I say that the Palestinians need to get their shit together, it means that they voted in Hamas democratically. I'll say it again. They voted in a terrorist group democratically. Now, it may have been at gunpoint, because we saw when Hamas won the election in 2006 or 7, they killed the opposition of Fatah. They literally killed them. This is what they did to their own people. They rule Gaza with an iron fist. They took the aid of humanitarian aid that Israel was supplying and other nations. They stole the trucks, right? They took all the aid and then they pumped it into the black market for inflated prices. And all the while, their warriors and freedom fighters were receiving care and were being nourished and were in the tunnels. So with the ones that with the Israelis that they stole. So your story doesn't make sense in the sense of that doesn't mean that I'm a supremacist. It means I'm a realist. That's what that means. So I disagree. 2006 elections. Yes, after Israel vacated Gaza in the disengagement, Israel pulled out of Gaza completely. Israel uprooted 30 or 40, I think, between 20 and 40,000 Jews from their homes, took them all out, left the infrastructure there, by the way. Said to the Palestinians, we are getting out of Gaza. Take it, do what you will with it. So the first thing they did was destroy all of the infrastructure that the Israelis left there, because who needs that, right? And the greenhouses and everything. The second thing they did was make elections where they elected Hamas to be their leader. And since then, there have been no elections because Hamas are dictating, is a dictatorship and a murderous dictatorship at that, right? Who kill anybody who opposes them, from what I've gathered. So that's the one election that happened there in 2006 or 7, and ever since then there have been no elections, and Hamas has been ruling Gaza with an iron fist. So, again, what is your claim here, man? What are you telling me? Unknown Soul says, a realist would know it's all fake, there is no war, nothing is happening, everything on the news is AI. Now, I'm willing to agree with you to some degree, okay? By the time that it reaches my eyes, my ears, it's all propaganda. By the time it's a headline of some kind written by someone, it's propaganda. It's gone through editorials, editors, it's gone through censorship boards, it's gone through the people who make things happen with their money, and we want to engineer, right? We want to engineer the people and tell them how to think, and tell them what to believe, and tell them how to act. By the time it reaches me, if it's a media outlet of some kind, it already has an agenda baked right in, and propaganda is what it is. It's not news, it's not a bulletin, it's not a news flash, it's not a... No, it's propaganda. On the left, on the right, on the center, blah, 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 blah. It's all propaganda. The thing is this, I have been to the Gazan border. I have been part of the war, not this one, the pre-2014, right? It was six or 7 weeks there, Tzuk Eitan, Protective Edge. I was part of that war, okay? I was there. Sorry, you can't tell me I didn't see what I saw. You can't. I was there. I saw it. Now, it could be that you are right and there's no war going on. If there is no war going on, then I have truly no idea what is going on. I really don't. Gush Katif, that's right, Gush Katif. That's right, Michael. So yeah, everything is propaganda. By the time it reaches me, be it on the internet or a newspaper that I'd never read, anything, by the time it reaches me, the one simple dumbass in the Middle East, right? Just me, just a guy, it's already propaganda. And I treat it as such. When I read a news article of any kind, what I think before it is, someone wrote this, so I will think a certain way about a certain thing. It is not objective, it is not necessarily true, it is full of political and industrial spinning in order to engineer my mind to behave a certain way and act a certain way and believe a certain thing. That's how I go into it, okay? So understand that I don't believe everything I hear, I don't believe everything I read. So let's make that clear. Okay. You are propaganda, says Michael. No, I think that if I am propagandizing anything, it's let's have a conversation. Yes, I am a propaganda for having a conversation. Because if we keep hating each other, nothing good will come of it. just more death and destruction, just more exile. So we need to talk. If we don't talk, that's it, we're done. So I'm a propagandist for conversations, maybe even difficult conversations. I'm willing to have these conversations if I have an actual partner to have the discourse with. I'm willing to have very difficult conversations. The question is then, now what? So far, from what I've seen in the chat, people, including you, Michael, have been saying a lot of things that I didn't say and accusing me of things that I didn't do, and just to what? To make a point I really I'm trying to understand you, and I'm not able to fully understand you. And you see, if you say something that I agree with you, and I state it out loud. I have certain reservations, perhaps, or it wasn't exactly like this or that, but I can agree with you on general principle on certain things, definitely. Push Away says, if you shouldn't put yourself down, but I get what you're saying, these things for the audience. Yes, I am, but I'm also very, very, very real with what I'm saying. I believe every single one of the things that I'm saying, and I'm not saying it's written in stone, right? I have a relatively open mind. It can be changed. I am aware of the fact that my mind is highly plastic, right? And it's malleable, and I can change certain things. You bring me certain things, you give evidence, I don't know what, I'll be able to change my mind, right? The mind should be allowed to be changed. It should, for me anyway. You are very, hey, Maish is here, my Nazarite brother. Those of you who want to watch a different kind of Nazarite, check out Maish's channel. He's also a Nazarite, and you're spouting Zionist propaganda mostly. Let's put it this way, Michael. Even if we say that I'm spouting Zionist propaganda, I'm anchoring it in history, I'm anchoring it in facts, and I'm willing to admit that I don't know everything, that I'm not blindly supporting the government, and I even went so far as to say that the biblical Mosaic Torah Zionism of you have a place and you'll go back to it when you repent, or you'll repent and go back to it, that is something that's different in some ways than the modern day secular, socialist, emancipated, Zionism. So if I am spouting propaganda, I truly am trying to look at it from a fairer perspective. But you, I'm assuming, do not live here in the land of Israel. And you can't tell me what to think of Zion when I am the one who is living in Zion. You can't. You simply can't. Doorway says, HN is a good guy, funny and intelligent. I have my moments. I also have moments when I'm bad and unfunny and certainly unintelligent. I'm here and there. I really am. Yes, Michael says, after 2006 election for Hamas, no. They destroyed the infrastructure of Gush Katif before the elections, right? A day or two after the Jews left Gush Katif, after the disengagement, it happened in the summer of 2006, I believe, or 2005. A day or two after the disengagement, right? Palestinians, I don't know if they were terrorists, I don't know if they were just the Gen Pop, they showed up and they burned the buildings, and they burned the greenhouses, and they destroyed the infrastructure that was there. This is proven, documented fact. Look it up. They went and they destroyed everything there, or nearly everything. I didn't say after the election. I said that happened before the election. So after the disengagement and after Gush Katif was destroyed, then afterwards, a few months later, I don't recall, a year later, they had elections in Gaza, and Gaza elected Hamas. Hamas afterwards went after Fatah, their rivals, killed a lot of them, dragged them in the streets, alive or dead, or I don't know. I didn't watch the news, but they eliminated their competition, which, by the way, they are still doing with the militias, the civilian militias in Gaza. They are cracking down on them hard. They want to rule and oppress their people, all the while telling them that they are righteous for doing so. You've never had it so good. But, okay, what I said was correct. You are misquoting me. Don't misquote me. Here we go, more lies. Okay. Did Israel have a blockade on Gaza? Yes, there was a blockade on Gaza because there were Gazans coming in every single day, blowing up buses and knifing people to death, and kidnapping people, running them over with cars on a daily basis. Are you telling me, are you so unbelievably ignorant that you're telling me, or foolish, that you're telling me that you would live in a place, okay? You would live in a place A next to place B, okay? Place B has people who are coming in to kill you on a regular basis, and you would just let it happen. You would not do anything to protect yourself in place A from the people in place B. You're telling me that you would just let it happen. Why? Who does that? You definitely would not let it happen. My assumption, and I might be wrong, is that if you were living in place A and there were people in place B coming in every single day, multiple people every single day to kill you, to blow up buses, to blow up bus stations or train stations, to knife people in the streets, not just soldiers, mind you, which I can understand, civilians. Civilians. Even if you say, no, 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 civilians serve in the army, they are de facto in the army. Okay, children, women who don't serve necessarily. Let's say this happens all the time and happened all the time. So, if you're in that place A, and place B is trying to kill you on a regular basis, says in the charter that they won't stop until Islam rules or you're eliminated, right? Whichever comes first. You're telling me that you would do absolutely nothing? That is the most unbelievably defeatist and anti-evolution, let's say, as far as the survival instinct is concerned. And I don't believe that to be the case at all. So, okay, maybe you would just slide your pants down and bend over and spread your butt cheeks. Maybe you would. Maybe you would. Maybe, likely, you wouldn't. And if you had people coming in every single day to kill you, kidnap you, torture you, maim you, murder you, you would do something about it. So you can call it a blockade, but the fact is that were it not for terrorists and regular civilians, for that matter, trying to come in and kill you all the time on a regular basis, there wouldn't be a need for a blockade, and we'd be able to, right? Just like other areas of the Palestinian Authority, places like Ramallah, places like Jenin, places like Jericho, which Israelis went to all the time. But now they can't, right? We have A, B, and C, and the Oslo Accords, and all that. Did you know that there are signs in Hebrew and English and Arabic that tell us, the Israelis, that it's illegal to enter certain areas? There is no such signage coming in from the Palestinian places that are area C, that are area A. This is actual look it up crap. I'm not pulling things out of my ass. Did Israel fund Hamas? I think that there were Israeli politicians who thought that if only they gave Hamas enough money to get their infrastructure and their economy going, that they would forsake this spiritual quest, right? This religious fervor. In other words, give them enough money, and then their quality of life will go up. And when a person's quality of life goes up, and they're not just busy with survival and in squalor and poverty, then they are able to expand their mind. They have the breadth, right, to take a moment and pause and think of how I can make life better in general. I think that was the case. They thought that if they gave money to, I'm making an assumption here, but it's simply that's what I know may have happened. They gave money to Hamas in order for them to make the quality of life of Palestinians better. But what they did was make the quality of life for Palestinians worse, take all of the money and invest it in terrorism. So Israel did fund Hamas to some degree, whether it's them being the middleman from money from Qatar or other Arab nations or Muslim nations, or whether it's Israel keeping the Palestinian tax money and then transferring it, again, as a middleman to the Palestinian Authority, or whether it's actually Israeli politicians taking taxpayer money that I paid for, right? Israeli tax money, and giving it to them. I don't know which one of that. Is it one of them? Is it two of them? Is it all of them? I don't know. But yes, Israel did transfer money to Hamas in some way or another. Israel did fund Hamas in some way or another. And I think the idea was give people the ability to get their head above the water and breathe, and to get out of survival mode, and already there will be a change in society. They actually did not think it through, because they thought that they could pay people and have them elevate the physical quality of their life, but they neglected to, or they forgot or neglected to remember that it's a religious war. It's a spiritual war. This is not about land. It's not about quality of life. It's not about territory. This is about Islam. That's what it is. This entire region needs to go back to be under Islam rule. That's all this is. From the water to the water, what became from the river to the sea, right? It will be under the rule of Islam. That's what the charter says, the Hamas charter. Okay? That's literally what it says there. So that's what they're going for. They were very open about this. Yes, convert or die, but all this place will be Muslim. That's what Allah wants. Allah wants everybody to come under Islam. Islam literally means submission, submitting to the will of Allah. Nothing wrong with that. If you're Muslim, more power to you. He avoids the question. I didn't see a question, CB. I'm sorry. The chat is going very fast. Explain Noahide laws. Okay, so after the children of Noah and Noah exited the ark, there are certain commandments that are put into place. There are traditionally 7 mitzvot b'nei Noach, the Noahide law commandments. Not everybody agrees, by the way, with this idea of the Noahide laws, but it's supposed to instantiate some code of morality that the nations, even if they don't keep the Torah, they need to follow these 7 commandments, and that is what makes them righteous people of the nations, or what's called righteous Gentiles. People who are not of the Hebrew faith, people who are not of the tribe of Israel, but who are still righteous in the eyes of God if they keep these 7 commandments. That's the Noahide laws. Not everybody goes by the Noahide laws. Not everybody agrees that the Noahide laws should be that not all the nations should go according to the Noahide laws. And some people say, I mean, even there, the Noahide laws don't all appear there in 1 or 2 verses, right? They're kind of spread out. So that's the Noahide laws. That's basically it. Why would I avoid the question, man? I'm not avoiding any question, but the chat here is coming. That's a lot. Carmine says Palestinians have used their children as suicide bombers. Yes, and I don't blame the children. They're brainwashed. From a very young age, they are brainwashed to believe that the Jews, right, are pigs and dogs and apes, and that Allah is very pleased and proud when a Muslim takes up arms and kills them. And if a person dies, right, and is martyred while killing Jews, they get the highest honor. And this is also reflected in the fact that the Palestinian Authority and Hamas reward and pay salaries, right, from their tax money to the families of shahidim, of martyrs who have killed Jews. The more Jews you kill, the more money you get. This, right, they are a death cult. They sanctify death, and they don't sanctify life. The people are expendable. Only the rule and will of Allah is what counts. So the people are expendable. There's no actual value to human life. That's why they use them as human shields and don't give them a second thought. That's why they didn't build any infrastructure or bomb shelters or made tunnels for the civilian population. They did none of those things. What did they do? They used it for terrorism. The 7 commandments are, I don't know them offhand, but I will read them. Hang on, the Noahide commandments. The 7, here we go. These laws, it says in Google, cover prohibitions against idolatry, blasphemy, murder, sexual immorality, theft, eating flesh from a living animal, and mandate courts of justice. Those are the 7 laws. Again, if people didn't get it, I'll slow it down. No idolatry, no blasphemy, no murder, that's killing with intent and without provocation, premeditated killing, right? Sexual immorality, theft, eating flesh from a living animal, meaning that you need to kill it, right? And to slaughter it, that is, and mandate establishing courts of justice. Those are the 7. Now, this is AI, right? You could go obviously deep into the 7 and what they mean and the different halachot and whatever, but these are the 7 Noahide laws, like a universal moral code that some Jews say the rest need to follow. I know that Chabad, for instance, right, the Lubavitcher Hasidus Chabad are very, very, very much into teaching the Gentiles about the 7 Noahide laws. They believe that will make everybody closer to God. We have our commandments, you have your commandments, here's why you ought to follow them. So yes, those are the 7 commandments of the Noahide laws. CB, kindly tell me, why would I avoid that question, first of all? Second of all, tell me what do you think about the Noahide laws? Do you think that the Torah that's meant for the Jews by and large, the Hebrews, do you think it has any right to dictate a moral global way, right, for the Gentiles? And why would I avoid the question? Did you say something that I did not agree with? I agree that they exist. Then it's simply a question of whether or not it's applicable and whether or not it's binding. And some people agree and some people disagree. I, for one, say do whatever you want. Just be a good person, ya salam. If your belief isn't true, is that idolatry? No, idolatry is worshiping a foreign god. That's idolatry as far as I know. Like making an idol of the Hebrew God, or in some cases, worshiping a different God in idol form. But we know that there have been idols, so it makes sense that it's the first one and not the second one. Forget what I said afterwards. CB says, Noahide laws kill Christians. From my understanding, glad you addressed. Okay, tell me, when was the last war that you can name where the Jews rose up against the Christians in a religious war, claiming the Noahide laws to be the backing and the underpinning of the war? Name one war where that happened. I'm ignorant. Maybe there have been plenty of them. I have never heard of a single war of Jews against Christians where it was the Noahide laws that were cited as the basis for going to war against Christianity. The only war that was against idolaters and whatnot was the war of conquest after Joshua crossed the Jordan, 13 years of conquest of the 7 nations. They killed them. That's it. That's what I know. So, sure. Whoa, Brother Man says, if you want to do evil, go to another city. Yes, that's right. Where you are not known, and do your evil to Gentiles there. That's not what it says. No, it doesn't say do evil to Gentiles there. You are incorrect. First of all, what it says, if a person sees that his evil inclination is starting to get the better of him, okay, he should dress in black and go to a place where he is not known, and then do your evil deeds there. That indeed does say it in the Talmud. I want to make this very clear. This was not made into halacha. This is not rabbinic law. This is part of an ongoing debate on how a person should address their evil inclinations. Okay? So we are living in a world of good and evil. The Talmud addresses good and evil because it's trying to get to the point of what the halacha is eventually. There's also many things that are outside halacha, right? There's Agadah and Midrash. So, but yes, no, whoa, brother man, if you're going to quote the Talmud, quote it properly. That is a misquote of the Talmud, but essentially you're right. It is written there, but it was not made into halacha. It's just the opinion of one, maybe two, of the sages there. That's right, and it's brought in as part of a debate. So you're bringing it, what, for like a gotcha moment? There's no gotcha there, I'm sorry to tell you. Beep2B195 says, God does not interfere in our lives, but waits for us to ask him to help us, for he respects our freedom. I mean, I agree and I disagree. It depends on the revelation. There is a revelation that waits for us, and there is a revelation that interferes or intervenes, but it, again, yes, all has to do with our actions. Or you can make the case for reincarnation and us shedding karma from previous lives and that whole thing. Pardon me. So it depends on the type of revelation that you're talking about, and it depends on the type of basis, right, in this life, previous lives that you're talking about. But always and ever it comes down to the individual and to the eternal question of now what? Now what? What are you going to do with that information, you know? Okay, I think I'm going to say goodbye. I've been on for 2 hours and 38 minutes. People, this has been so much fun. I hope you join me for the next live stream. I appreciate your time, your kind and gentle attention, the likes, the subs, the views, the chats, the trolls, the haters, the debaters, the people who enlighten me, the people who enliven me, the people who think that I'm horrible, the people who swipe up in horror when they see me come up on their screen. I appreciate and cherish this engagement with you, raw, live, from Jerusalem. I don't sugarcoat anything. I try to address everything as fairly as I can, with no preconceived notions other than what I'm bringing here. I don't claim to be better or more superior or wiser or a know-it-all of any kind. Do your own research. Believe what you want to believe. I'm just here to have some good discourse here. It's the Hebrew Nazarite. Look for me on the different platforms, Hebrew Nazarite across the board. My tree is there. If you want to engage in the DMs, that's why I'm telling you this, not just for the I don't know what. Because I love talking in the DMs. It's a lot of fun. Because then I can talk to you one on one, and not as a group. So look for me on Twitter and on X or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. I'm there. Hit me up in the DMs if you want. I don't post much. This is my main thing, but I'm definitely there as well. So yes, I do appreciate the time that you take out of your busy lives, and I do not doubt that they are busy, even during the holiday season, for those who are celebrating. Thank you for joining me. I hope that it was of some value. I hope that it was of some entertainment, if not value. And since I'm always about bringing it down to creation and not leaving it here in the intellect of discourse and conversation, I'll just say that it's a new week that's starting tonight. I hope and pray that I, on a personal level, will be able to be better, to do better, to become more balanced, to be more nuanced, and to be more righteous in my little way, to do what I can. I hope you, kind men and women out there, be kind, be a blessing to yourselves, be a blessing to others. Choose life. Try to choose life in the things that you do, in the way that you behave. It's just, I think, better for everyone. And I'm very ignorant, but I'm trying to be a little less dumb with every video. So until the next time, hopefully tomorrow, at some point, we'll stream again. Until tomorrow, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Shavua Tov. Good night from Jerusalem. God bless. Thank you all. This was awesome.